अस्सलाम वालेकुम एवरीवन। सो सैटरडे वेबिनार शुरू करते हैं।
Assalamu alaikum, everyone.
वालेकुम सलाम। Alright, let me share my screen for introduction of iCode group और फिर हम वेबिनार की तरफ चलते हैं। Yeah, give me 2 minutes to share my screen. Alright, सर तलहा मेरी स्क्रीन विजिबल है?
जी मैम, आपकी स्क्रीन विजिबल है।
Okay. Assalamu alaikum once again. As you know, my name is Muskan, one of the moderator of iCode group. सैटरडे वेबिनार शुरू करने से पहले iCode ग्रुप का ब्रीफ सा इंट्रोडक्शन। सो iCode ग्रुप का मोटो है शेयर लर्न एंड ग्रो। iCode ग्रुप पे हम अपनी नॉलेज दूसरों के साथ शेयर करते हैं, दूसरों की नॉलेज से लर्न करते हैं और एज अ कम्युनिटी हम एक साथ ग्रो करते हैं। सो iCode ग्रुप का इनिशिएटिव डॉक्टर जफ़र शाहिद ने लिया है, जो कि iCode ग्रुप के प्रेसिडेंट और फाउंडर हैं, और ही सपोर्टेड बाय डॉक्टर रिजवान गफ्फार, सर कलीम, सर आमिर खान एंड सर खालिद खोकर, और दे ऑल आर फ्रॉम सिलिकॉन वैली, यूएसए। सो आईकोड गुरु का मिशन क्या है? आईकोड गुरु का मिशन है एम्प्लॉयबिलिटी को इंक्रीज करना, हाईटेक स्किल्स जो मार्केट में इन डिमांड है, स्टूडेंट के साथ उनको इंट्रोड्यूस करवाना, इंटरनेशनल मेंटर्स के साथ मीटअप कराना, हैकाथॉन्स और वेबिनार्स की शक्ल में। तो बात करते हैं आईकोड गुरु का फोकस क्या है और हम काम कैसे करते हैं। तो बेसिकली आईकोड गुरु का फोकस इस तरह से है कि हम पर डे आईकोड गुरु पे 20+ सेशंस रन करवाए जाते हैं, एक वीकली वेबिनार जिसमें हम सारे भी मौजूद हैं, 2 वीकली वर्कशॉप्स कंडक्ट करवाए जाते हैं सैटरडे संडे पर, और पाइथन फॉर एब्सोल्यूट बिगनर्स के मल्टीपल सेशंस रन करवाए जाते हैं स्टूडेंट्स की लर्निंग के लिए, ताकि हम अपने किसी भी फ्री टाइम के हिसाब से आईकोड गुरु का कोई भी सेशन ज्वाइन कर सकें। तो आईकोड ग्रुप पे 24/7 सेशंस रन हो रहे होते हैं। जनरल कोर्सेज के अलावा आईकोड ग्रुप पे आइट्स, जीआरई, टफल और डिलिंगो इंग्लिश टेस्ट के कई सेशन रन करवाए जाते हैं, ताकि हम फ्री प्रिपरेशन के साथ इंटरनेशनल स्कॉलरशिप्स को फंड कर सकें। और इन तमाम कोर्सेज के अलावा जनरल कोर्सेज में डीएसए, लीड कोड और इंटरव्यू प्रेप के कुछ क्वेश्चन जो हैं सेशंस के जरिए सॉल्व करवाए जाते हैं, ताकि हम बिग फैंग जैसी कंपनीज जो हैं, बिग टेक कंपनीज जो हैं, उनकी इंटरव्यूज को इजीली क्रैक कर सकें और अपनी प्रॉब्लम सॉल्विंग को इन्हेंस कर सकें। मशीन लर्निंग, डेटा साइंस, डीप लर्निंग, जेएनआई जैसे एडवांस कोर्सेज भी आईकोड ग्रुप पे रन करवाए जाते हैं। तमाम सेशंस की रिकॉर्डिंग आईकोड ग्रुप के यूट्यूब चैनल पे मौजूद होती है। इनकेस अगर हमारा कोई लाइव सेशन जो है वो मिस हो जाता है, तो हम आईकोड ग्रुप के यूट्यूब चैनल से जो सेशंस की रिकॉर्डिंग है वो वॉच कर सकते हैं। सो आईकोड गुरु के रिसेंट अचीवमेंट्स के बारे में बात करते हैं। आईकोड गुरु के 700+ इंटरनेशनल अवार्ड्स हैं, इंटरनेशनल हैकाथॉन्स में और कोडिंग कॉम्पिटिशन्स में। आईकोड गुरु हेल्प आउट करता है अपने स्टूडेंट्स की फुली फंडेड एडमिशन्स और स्कॉलरशिप सिक्योर करने में, ऑल ओवर द वर्ल्ड, स्पेशली यूएसए। इसके अलावा आईकोड गुरु अपने स्टूडेंट्स को हेल्प करता है लोकल और इंटरनेशनल इंटर्नशिप्स और जॉब्स को सिक्योर करने में, क्योंकि जिन स्किल्स पे आईकोड गुरु काम कर रहा होता है स्टूडेंट्स के सीवी पे, रिज्यूमे पे, डॉक्यूमेंट्स पे, मोटिवेशन लेटर, एलओआर, तो डेफिनेटली जो स्टूडेंट्स हैं उनके चांसेस इंक्रीज हो जाते हैं। तो ये पिछले साल की स्टेट्स यहाँ पे मेंशन है कि हार्वर्ड यूनिवर्सिटी का एक पजल डे होता है, CS50X पजल डे, जिसमें 9 पजल्स होते हैं और हमें ये मौका मिलता है कि हम उन पजल्स को सॉल्व करें विद इन अ वीक और उन्हें सबमिट करें। तो पिछले साल आईकोड गुरु से 259 टीम्स ने 9x9 पजल सॉल्व किया, और जो विनर थे हार्वर्ड के कंपटीशन में, और अपनी जगह बनाई बिफोर अमेरिका इस इवेंट में। अगर बात की जाए 2026 की, तो हार्वर्ड में पाकिस्तानी स्टूडेंट्स इस बार 749 टीम्स ने पार्टिसिपेट किया है, जिन्होंने तमाम पजल सॉल्व किए हैं, और हार्वर्ड ने उन्हें रिकॉग्नाइज किया है विद दिस सर्टिफिकेट्स। और ये एक अचीवमेंट है आईकोड गुरु की और पाकिस्तान की। देन अगर हम स्टैनफोर्ड यूनिवर्सिटी में बात करें, तो एक इवेंट होता है कोडिंग प्लेस, जो कि बड़ा पॉपुलर है। और 2025 में लास्ट ईयर 240 प्लस मेंटर्स जो हैं वो सिलेक्ट हुए थे आईकोड गुरु के प्लेटफॉर्म से, जिनमें हमें मौका मिला कि हमने 1-to-1 इंटरनेशनल स्टूडेंट्स को पढ़ाया पाइथन और कलर प्रोग्रामिंग, और जिसे हम कहते हैं कि CS 106A का कोर्स बेसिक, जिसमें आईकोड गुरु के मॉडरेटर जो स्टूडेंट्स ने इंटरनेशनल स्टूडेंट्स को पढ़ाया। और 2026 में अगर देखा जाए तो इस बार आईकोड गुरु के प्लेटफॉर्म से जो सेक्शन लीडर्स या मेंटोर सिलेक्ट हुए हैं वो 250 प्लस हुए हैं। इसी तरह से MIT इमर्जिंग टैलेंट प्रोग्राम, जिसमें 8000 स्टूडेंट्स ने पार्टिसिपेट किया, ग्लोबली सिलेक्शन 320 हुई, और अगेन आईकोड गुरु के 3 स्टूडेंट इसमें भी शामिल हैं। देन गूगल कोड जैम 2023 आईकोड गुरु के प्लेटफॉर्म से 301 स्टूडेंट ने पार्टिसिपेट किया था, जो कि 2023 की एक हाईलाइटेड न्यूज़ है। और 3 इंटर्न्स इतिहाद एविएशन ग्रुप ज्वाइन किया उन्होंने अबू धाबी में। उन्हें इंटर्नशिप करने का मौका मिला एज अ इंटर्न, क्योंकि उन्होंने एक इंटरनेशनल हैकाथॉन को विन किया था। सो ये एक पोस्टर है जिसमें हम ये देख रहे हैं कि फॉल 2024 में जिन स्टूडेंट्स ने, जो कि आईकोड गुरु के प्लेटफॉर्म से ताल्लुक़ रखते हैं, उन्होंने US की 19 यूनिवर्सिटीज़ में फुली फंडेड MS और PhD के एडमिशन्स ग्रैब किए, जिसमें यूनिवर्सिटी ऑफ एग्रीकल्चर फैसलाबाद के स्टूडेंट शामिल हैं, कायद आज़म यूनिवर्सिटी, इंटरनेशनल इस्लामिक यूनिवर्सिटी, मोहम्मद नवाज शरीफ यूनिवर्सिटी ऑफ मुल्तान UET लाहौर, यूनिवर्सिटी ऑफ गुजरात बहरिया यूनिवर्सिटी और GCF के स्टूडेंट शामिल हैं, जिन्होंने 2024 में फुली फंडेड स्कॉलरशिप्स सिक्योर की थी। सो ये फॉल 2025 का पोस्टर है, स्लाइड है, जिसपे हम देख रहे हैं कि पाकिस्तान की 30 प्लस यूनिवर्सिटीज़ हैं जिनके स्टूडेंट्स आईकोड गुरु के प्लेटफॉर्म से ताल्लुक़ रखते हैं, जिन्होंने US की 38 प्लस यूनिवर्सिटीज़ में फुली फंडेड एडमिशन सिक्योर किए, प्लस फुली फंडेड स्कॉलरशिप्स। और अगर उनके पोर्टफोलियो की बात की जाए तो उनका जो CGPA था वो 3.1 to 3.8 के दरमियान था। आर्ट्स रेंज 6.5 to 7.5, कोई पब्लिकेशन नहीं थी, किसी ने कोई GRE नहीं दिया था। स्टडी गैप 1 to 15 ईयर्स का था स्टूडेंट्स का, और 100% फ़ी वेवर उन्होंने रिसीव किया एप्लीकेशन प्रोसीजर को फिल आउट करने के लिए। देन स्कॉलरशिप स्टाइपेंड $1100 to $3000 पर मंथ, और आईकोड ग्रुप के स्टूडेंट ने अब तक कोई बैंक स्टेटमेंट शो नहीं करवाई। सो 2025 में आईकोड ग्रुप के प्लेटफॉर्म से 60 प्लस स्टूडेंट्स ने फुली फंडेड अपॉर्चुनिटीज़ को ग्रैब किया है। सो एक बार ग्राफ है जिसमें हम ये देख रहे हैं कि आईकोड गुरु की जो कम्युनिटी है वो किस तरह से अपलिफ्ट हो रही है ईयर बाय ईयर। और 2026 में आईकोड गुरु के 125K की कम्युनिटी है विद दीज इंटरनेशनल अचीवमेंट, जिसमें हार्वर्ड, MIT, UC बर्कले और स्टैनफोर्ड जैसी नामी ग्रामी Tier 1 यूनिवर्सिटीज़ के नेम शामिल हैं। थैंक यू सो मच फॉर ज्वाइनिंग दिस सेशन। रजिस्ट्रेशन के लिए iCode.guru/join पे आप जाके विजिट कर सकते हैं। देन iCode गुरु का जो FB पेज है उसे वॉच कर सकते हैं फॉर लेटेस्ट अपडेट्स, और iCode गुरु के यूट्यूब चैनल को भी विजिट कर सकते हैं। तो आज का जो टाइटल है वेबिनार का, सैटरडे वेबिनार का टाइटल है माय अंडरग्रेड जर्नी इनटू डेटा साइंस एंड प्रोफेशनल ग्रोथ, और हमारी गेस्ट स्पीकर हैं मैम सारा खान। सो मैम सारा जो है अंडरग्रेड की स्टूडेंट हैं पेन स्टेट यूनिवर्सिटी की, और इनका BS अभी चल रहा है, और इनका BS है अप्लाइड डेटा साइंस में। और मैम सारा खान का जो इंडस्ट्री एक्सपीरियंस है, प्रोफेशनल जो इनका एक्सपीरियंस है, इन्होंने कई जगह पे इंटर्नशिप्स की है कई कंपनीज़ में, और जिनमें IBM शामिल है, कोटेरा शामिल है, इकोलैब्स शामिल है, trueHue विजन शामिल है। इसके अलावा मैम सारा जो हैं वो हेल्थ डेटा एनालिटिक्स रिसर्च इंटर्न है पेन स्टेट यूनिवर्सिटी में भी। सो प्लीज़ ज्वाइन मी टू वेलकमिंग मैम सारा खान। और मैं अपनी स्क्रीन शेयरिंग ऑफ कर देती हूँ। थैंक यू सो मच मैम सारा फॉर योर टाइम and for this talk. So yes, over to you. Thank you once again.
Yeah, again, thank you so much for the introduction. It's nice to be here, everyone. Thank you for being here. I will be speaking in English for basically all of the presentation. I understand Urdu, like, लेकिन मैं बहुत अच्छी तरह से नहीं बोल सकती हूँ, so I'm gonna stick to English. But if you have questions or if you want to speak to me in Urdu, that's totally fine. I'll just be responding in English. So I'll go ahead and I'll start up my presentation. Just share my screen. Okay, there. Right. Okay. So once again, my name is Sarah Khan. I am a third-year data science student. I'm studying at Penn State University. I was born and raised in the US. My parents are from Pakistan. They're from Karachi. My Abba, he is an engineer, civil engineer, and my Amma, she is a teacher. So I ended up going into a STEM field just like they did. But again, I'm just kind of here to talk about my journey so far as an undergrad and my internship experiences and where that's taking me now, and maybe some lessons that you can take from it as well. So the first thing I kind of want to do is just understand the audience a little bit. I know we have a lot of people who joined, alhamdulillah, and I know a lot of you are students, but I saw on my LinkedIn a lot of you added me, and there's people of different backgrounds, different experience levels. So if you want to maybe in the chat, or you can unmute yourself if you can, just like mention maybe, are you in high school? Are you a college student? What's your major? Interests in tech, something you're really interested in maybe learning about, or maybe that I can discuss too, to kind of tailor the conversation a little bit. So, um, yeah, feel free to do that. I'll just see what we have. Oh, we have a PhD, BS in data science. Nice. Biotech. Okay. Cybersecurity. Okay, yeah, I see we all have a very technical background. Most of us in college, at least. Oops. Let me put that aside. Okay. Okay, I see some telecommunications. Okay, nice. Just complete high school. Okay. Yeah, so I like how we have a very diverse set of backgrounds, totally perfect since the presentation is kind of meant to, be for general audience anyways. So um yeah, I guess I'll just go right to it then. All right, so table of contents, I just kind of want to talk about, of course, why I got into data science, what kind of led me to choosing this career path. Obviously, my experiences thus far, some of my reflections, things maybe I wish I did more, or the things that I'm glad I did, and then maybe your takeaways and what you can do with that wherever you're at in your career. So, why data science? So for me, I think my interest in data science really came from high school. This was again back in like 2022, 2023, when I was about to end high school. I think generative AI kind of started becoming a topic, but not too many people were familiar with it, nor was it as popular as it is now. But as a student who was really interested in medicine at the time and who was very involved with like STEM clubs, trying to do more extracurriculars before I went to college, I really started thinking about intersectionality of tech and then medicine. And that kind of led me to doing a STEM project in my club. I call it I Coped. So it was kind of like a app prototype, if you will. It was generally for self-management, kind of helping people with certain respiratory conditions understand their symptoms, get the help they need, get in contact with, their health providers. But it had an additional feature that most apps at the time especially didn't have, which included introducing machine learning, introducing logistic regression into risk analysis. Because again, with a lot of conditions like that, it's hard to predict. It's hard to tell when a flare-up will happen or when they're most susceptible to something. So it kind of introduced a new idea of preventative measures that were not really thought of before. Again, this was a very introductory time with Gen AI. So that got pretty far. I went through a lot of competitions with that project. I placed at the statewide level in a congressional app challenge back in high school. So I kind of knew that this idea was a solid one. And it's something that, made me really inspired to do more with it, studying in college and hopefully after I graduate, take this idea further or do something along the lines of medtech again. But the other thing that I explored within high school, but after that project was AI and education. I think that was also a big concern starting around that time was, is AI going to be helpful in teaching people? Is it going to hinder their learning abilities? So I did a research on kind of understanding the current education system and then how AI was showing up at the time and finding a balance almost. How can we use it in the classroom without forfeiting the whole aspect of the teacher and student relationship and kind of the communication that needs to be done there. And if you go on my LinkedIn, you can see I had written an article about it as well back then when I did the presentation. So you're more than welcome to look at that again, though it is probably a little outdated, but it was, again, these were kind of the research aspect is what really got me into it. Now, fast forward a few years now, I'm in my third year. I've had a lot of internship experiences. I've been fortunate enough to have experiences both in big tech and then also startups, which I think gives you a really good sense of how AI is already implemented and is going to be implemented at large. So in my first summer after my freshman year, I worked at two startups. One of them was Cotera, other one was called trueHue. I got them both through connections, actually. Again, I was a freshman, I didn't have much else to offer to a lot of, the usual big tech companies. So I thought reaching out to them personally would do me better, and it did. Because fortunately, they reached out and they gave me work there. So Cotera, just for your background, is a business analytics startup in New York. And so they're kind of centered around helping businesses optimize their customer data, using different platforms, kind of getting a unified view of what their customers need and want and how they can, create make their customers happy while being efficient about it. And so what I did there was less technical in AI. It was more uh, about just understanding the industry. I wrote a lot of articles for them to help promote their brand, but then also to understand where there's shortcomings when it comes to customer experience strategies with AI implementation. So that helped me with an industry level experience. And then as far as trueHue goes, that was more on the medtech side, but it was a startup that was started by a Penn State student who wanted to create a new color vision testing platform. I reached out to him personally, again, with my medtech experience from that project I did in high school and saying, I'm really interested. I want to learn more. I want to take part in an active project. So in that at that stage, it was a young startup, but they already had a patent, they had their validation set up. So we were working more on the user interface, implementing the machine learning models, testing accuracy, quality assurance, things of that nature. So that was my first, I'd say, proper technical experience as far as AI goes. Um, and then I went into the next summer doing IBM. And then before that, I actually wanted to get more involved in research, mainly because I wanted to increase my own knowledge of the industry of just health and tech altogether. So I got involved at Penn State. They had a data analytics research for a project that was really popular in terms of using demographic information, like economic and social data of various locations, and helping people who struggle with the opioid pandemic, which was a big issue in the US at the time, helping to target the areas that struggle with it more, targeting different solutions based off of the data that they had so they could prevent more deaths and really implement that idea of prevention over, treatment, which again was something I was really passionate about at the time. But I'd say my big thing as far as my biggest spike in college and just my professional career has been my 9-month co-op at IBM. Started in the summer and then I continued it into January, and I worked in the financial services market. And so I want to kind of talk more about the projects that I did there, which I feel like were not only technical, but again, they kind of help to cover the other aspects of working corporate life, which is your communication abilities. Again, I feel like those are also really important things to focus on when you're considering internships or jobs. They're also looking for that. But just to kind of get into it a little bit, I created a chatbot. It was called the Governance and Compliance Chatbot. Just to give some background, IBM is big on sales, and so they have a lot of like technical products they sell. And then we have our clients that we're working with, right? And I was working specifically with like financial clients, banks, insurance companies, things of that nature. And so the whole thing was, okay, we closed the deal, but in between the closing of the deal, there's a lot of checks and balances, right? There's a lot of documentation that has to be done to make sure that there's compliance from IBM side and then the client side when it comes to the data and data privacy and governing that data. And so that can be a very manual process because people have to go back and forth with documentation. But our chatbot was able to reduce that cycle by 50% efficiency. So we managed to make that process a little bit quicker and then also finish up those cycles that also resulted in better quarterly results for personally IBMers because the quarterly results meeting a certain quota is also very important. And then I worked on another very technical project. It was like a personas project revolving around machine learning and then a lot of data. Again, we have huge sets of data that we're working with, and a lot of big corporate companies are working with so much data that isn't usable in the sense that it's not cleaned up. It's in a format that machine learning or any sort of model can't really work with. And so the big aspect of that project was cleaning it up, using a lot of ETL processes, putting it in a way, organizing the data so that it can be ingested, and then also getting visualizations and metadata out of that data so we can figure out, hey, which customers, which consumers can we target for a certain advertisement? Which age group seems to be taking out most loans? Um, who can we target certain packages more for? So it kind of helps those companies, insurance companies, banks to figure out what do the people need and who needs it most. And then the third project was less technical, but it was something I took on optionally. It was more product management. So again, IBM is a huge company, but they have a lot of partnerships. And one of the partnerships they had at that time that they started up was working with a startup called Novatic. Novatic basically has this tool where you can create demos or presentations uh, online without having to have a Wi-Fi access, having to be able to do it without manual effort. There was a lot of hype about that because at IBM, there's a huge emphasis on presentations, client-centered work. So this was a really popular thing, and they wanted me to join to kind of help with a lot of the administration part, giving people access, teaching people how to use the technology. And I used it myself when I did present in one of the financial services market calls that they would have every Friday. And so it was a really good experience to kind of leverage my own visibility, then also be able to work on those soft skills that I was talking about, like communication. Can you explain something well to non-technical people? Again, those things that a lot of these internships, big tech companies are really going to value. And then another thing I kind of want to bring up besides just technical things that I've done is also things you can do in university. I feel like this goes undermined a lot when people are thinking about how they can make their resume better, what they can do to become more marketable. Again, you're a university student, so they want to see that you have a lot of abilities besides just being technical and knowing a lot of languages, things like that. So I took on a lot of leadership during my time so far. In my first 2 years of university, I joined the MSA, the Muslim Student Association. In a lot of US universities, you'll see that they each have like something like this. Uh, and so I was involved as a secretary. I did a lot of work, again, involving setting up events, setting up logistics, helping to fundraise money during Ramadan, Eid celebrations, all that stuff. So it was a very pivotal moment for me because it not only had obviously spiritual importance, but it was something that allowed me to lead better. It taught me how to lead. It taught me how to be organized. It taught me how to take initiative, and kind of being the person to move things forward. Again, a very important quality when you're thinking about a professional life as well. But currently, this year, I did start up with another similar organization. It's called AMSAM. And so it just stands for the American Muslim Society for Science, Engineering, and Medicine. So it's just a similar sort of student org, but it's dedicated more towards STEM efforts. We have professionals and students kind of getting together, helping each other out. We hold up events as well where professionals will lead maybe a conversation, a lab, a discussion in all sort of fields. We have technology and AI, which I'm the director of. We have, engineering, life sciences, other aspects, where, yeah, we just want to help connect Muslim students, help create a stronger bond between our professionalism and our spirituality, and to take things further. So I guess just kind of as a side note, if you're interested in joining that or just kind of being part of the network, I'll paste the link later into the chat. We have a whole website and you can join through that as well. And if you're a professional or if you know some professionals who might be interested, we'd of course love that too. We're open to international people. We actually have had quite a few people from Pakistan who work at IBM and join the network. So this might be useful to even some of you who are maybe looking for internships or want to maybe directly have that connection with some people that work there as well. So again, now my reflections with everything that I've done so far. I'd say one of the big things is that I wish I'd gotten involved in research sooner. I got involved into research, I'd say at my second year. And so I kind of wish I did it sooner because research is one of those things that, especially at the university level, is very like easy entry. A lot of professors or whoever is teaching you, you can usually just ask them and they'll either make a spot for you or they can get you some sort of work that gets your name into it. And I think that's a good entryway for a lot of freshmen, especially when you're already struggling to get maybe an internship or a technical job. And even if you're not considering, PhD, master's, research is always going to be very useful for your own knowledge. And in fact, it can be give you a leg up compared to maybe some of your other peers. Other than that, I think doing more hackathons or CS-based competitions. I did do a couple of case competitions in college as well, which I didn't list, but I think hackathons are also really important. Not necessarily to win them or not. That would obviously be a good thing on your resume and just on your professional brand as well. But hackathons also teach you, you have a time limit, you have a theme, you have a constraint. Think of a good idea and implement it. It does put a little pressure, but it kind of shows how your problem-solving abilities are. And then that could be a good project on your resume as well. I just recently did a hackathon, actually. We have a Google Student Developer Code Club here at Penn State, and they were running a hackathon overnight. And the whole theme was to target one of the United Nations social development goals. And a lot of those things are like, climate change, world hunger, things of that nature. And so I decided to do a climate change project and I got a whole project out of it. And I was able to put on my LinkedIn and it implements AI. So it's very much related to my personal brand, which again is human-centered AI, kind of doing AI for good, med tech, things like that. And so you can never really go wrong with a hackathon. And again, it also teaches you teamwork because you're usually working with other people, which will be an inevitable part of your career as well. I guess to kind of build off of that, I'd say building networks is really important. This is like, connections. You can be your peers, but then also maybe a family friend or someone who already is well established in the career. That's how I got my first two internships. One of them was through my brother's friend. The other was through a family friend that I had known for a while. And it's sometimes it can be difficult to kind of cold apply, right? Go through the pipeline where you're just applying and then you wait for results and sometimes you don't get very successful there. This helps you to stand out a little bit, especially now with a very competitive market, I imagine for all of us. This is gonna, help people to see maybe hiring recruiters, managers to see you a little bit better. Because I see a lot of people that have those skills, they have the abilities that I think maybe even exceed the job requirements, but they're not getting them because they're not leveraging the aspect of building networks and taking advantage of keeping those connections alive as well. And last thing I'd say, I think I did a good job at this, and I plan to continue this too, is focusing on personal brand and then personal projects. If I'd say to anyone who is either not getting internships or struggling with that, if you have a summer or if you have a period where you're not doing much, focus on personal projects. Think of a good idea, do something that you're really passionate about. And it doesn't even have to be the most innovative thing in the world. It just has to show that you really do care about something and you're able to reasonably implement your knowledge that you learned from the class into this project. And that kind of builds your personal brand, which is becoming more and more important as we tread through technology, especially with AI. I feel like everyone can learn the skills, everyone can learn a new coding language, people can do the certifications. But what's going to make you stand out is, do you have like a passion? Do you have a theme that you stick by? Is there something that adds trust or more to your work besides just the technical aspect? Is there more intentionality behind it? Things like that. And I think it's good to start that as soon as possible. You can start it in college, I think, even if you're not, you know, necessarily the most experienced, you can always think about your brand and then start moving in that direction, start applying to internships that align with your brand. Naturally, you're going to end up finding something that will, and then it will be more meaningful and fulfilling for you personally as well. And I guess I kind of hit on this already, but what can you do? You know, whether you're a student, high school student, college student, what can you really do right now to take all of this away and implement it into your life? One thing is certifications, which clearly you guys like at iCode Guru have a lot of resources for, which is amazing. But I'd say a lot of big companies, some of them are free. You can literally do them in your own time and then add them to your LinkedIn. It adds a lot of value more than you think. Because it's one thing if you're, doing the coursework in class, but the way that employers and other people can really tell that is certifications where it's like official that you have proven that you can do something in it, right? And similar to that, I'd say the personal projects have a similar effect. I know Coursera is really good. Some of them may cost money, some of them are free, but do it from really reputable sites. Again, focusing on data science skills if you're interested in AI is a big thing. I've done one through IBM during my co-op, so that kind of adds a little bit on my resume as well. But these are things you can do even if you're not working for a company. Again, a lot of companies, a lot of resources out there that are even free now. So I'd say take advantage of that. And I said join a research lab for myself, but also for anyone else. Join a research lab as soon as you can, even if you feel like, even if it's not paid, even if it's not something you maybe imagine yourself, always try something new as well. Sometimes you go into something thinking, oh, I'm not really interested in that, but then you find out you are or you're not. That was something that I kind of did when I first did my internship at Cotera. I'm thinking, I'm not really into business analytics. I'm not really big on this stuff. I'm more into med tech. I'm more into this. But I'm still glad I did that because that added to my resume. It leveraged my own knowledge about the industry and it still applies today. That's part of the reason why I got more opportunities in the future. So, really leveraging that opportunity, taking on research is going to be really helpful for you. And I think I've hit on this already, but building industry knowledge. The one thing I'm seeing, and I think a lot of us can agree, is now that it's becoming more competitive in the technical field, right? What's going to make you stand out is that personal brand, but then how knowledgeable are you in another domain? So I know some people here at Penn State are double majoring in finance and data science, econ and data science. Some are doing like biotech and data science, something like that. And I think that's really smart now, especially seeing how it, again, it's becoming more competitive. A lot of companies are either in one of those directions, so you can be more marketable that way as well. I'm personally doing a minor in economics, and I think it actually has helped me a lot with how I approach a lot of my projects even now. Um, and I think that it, regardless of where you go, I think that it will always be something that companies would like to see. So again, building your personal brand can also be supplemented by building that knowledge, reading more, learning more about whatever domain you're interested in. That can allow you to think of better ideas as well, especially if you're doing a personal project. Because if you don't have that knowledge and you don't know where to start, then you can't really do much with it. So yeah, I think that's what I wanted to cover in that aspect, but I wanted to just generally also mention coursework concepts that I'm sure a lot of you, especially if you're like upperclassmen, third or fourth year, have already thought of, but big things that I think now in this age of AI, you should focus on. I know coding is one of those things where people are like, okay, well, AI can do a lot of basic coding now, so how important is it for me to do the very basic coding classes, things like that? I'd say it's still very important because you still need that fundamental knowledge of those coding languages, of how they work systematically to be able to create a proper good AI project. Because of course, AI, as far as I can see now, I've worked with a lot of the tools that are available when I was coding even at IBM, and they're great, but you need to be able to direct it. Even if you are going to ask it to do a specific task, it can only replicate so much, but it can't necessarily create something new. You still have to understand how things work, the infrastructure, also the computational concerns. Is this efficient or is this too computationally expensive? Those things are not really something that AI does. And that's something that even from an engineering standpoint, you should be able to hone in on as a student. And you really, really want to deeply understand those things. So, and obviously in data science, Python, SQL, Java, R for visualization are the ones I know, and I think they're very essential to know. But if there's one that's very important, I'd say Python is the most essential for data science. Um, as far as other things with AI infrastructure, I'm taking a class right now actually about that, and I'm kind of realizing now as I'm taking it, it's very, very important. Even if you're in a very siloed role that's just software based, to understand AI infrastructure, the different parts, um, and also different computing methods, especially with big data, you know, like Spark, Apache Spark, and then different physical aspects like disks and nodes, memory, RAM, all those things. These are words that at one point I kind of just heard, but I didn't think I needed to know. But now that I'm becoming more involved in my career, I think it's something that everyone should have knowledge of because it can also affect your ability to complete a project if it's even in the scope that you imagined it to be. Um, and then obviously the thing that you're going to learn as you go is ML algorithms. You can do this on your own too, but you know, unsupervised, supervised learning, reinforcement learning, all those things, you know, you learn those as you go. Try to practice those as well in your personal projects so then you really feel like you know what it does and how it works. Besides that stuff, I'd say database design. I've taken a couple courses with like database management, relational databases, understanding database design. Because again, that's something that AI doesn't really do. You would have to do that. AI can do other smaller tasks associated with data, maybe cleaning up data, things like that. But that the systematic design, whether it comes to coding something or designing a database, is something that we should still become very solid at. And that kind of leads into like algorithmic thinking, brute force, recursive algorithms, for loops, you know, BFS, DFS, all these things we learn in class, but sometimes it doesn't really stick until you do it in an internship or at a project. So implementation is really important there as well. Being able to problem solve on your own, I'd say without relying on AI in that aspect is going to be a more valuable skill. Being able to use AI to help you code is going to be important because I'm seeing a lot of companies are putting emphasis on knowing how to use AI tools, generative AI tools to help them code, but obviously not relying on those, being able to still think about how to do and direct the AI if you are going to use any AI there. And then I've already said this many times, but the industry knowledge, build a domain of knowledge that you are interested in outside of AI, outside of tech. You know, I think of the most popular ones are finance, economics, medicine, because those are going to be, in my opinion, the most impactful in the coming years. And I think the demand there is also the highest. So I'd say really, really focus on that. If you can do a minor, if you can take some more coursework, that can kind of build into your career as well. It can show up on your education. That way it will be more beneficial thing. But yeah, I'd say all these things all together, you'll be really solid. You'll be ready to go for from a professional standpoint. Then also you'll feel more solid in your own personal brand and your abilities. So yeah, that's basically everything I wanted to cover. Again, I know that was a lot. If you want to discuss anything, if you have any questions, if there's things maybe that you want to get my opinion on, I'm free and open to answer those. So
जी अस्सलाम वालेकुम सारा खान माय नेम इज डॉक्टर रिजवान मैं आई कुड गुरु का को फाउंडर हूँ एंड आई एम हियर इन सिलिकॉन वैली तो मैं एक कंपनी है ब्रॉडकॉम वहाँ पे आई एम सीनियर प्रिंसिपल इंजीनियर तो थैंक यू वेरी मच आपने बड़ा अच्छा आई होप यू अंडरस्टैंड उर्दू जिस तरह आपने शुरू में
yeah.
बताया दैट्स हाउ विद आवर किड्स आल्सो हमारे बच्चे भी इसी तरह उर्दू समझते हैं लेकिन बोलते हुए दे स्टैमर राइट तो दैट्स
Mhm.
हाउ दे द पाकिस्तानी किड्स हियर इन यूएस आर जनरली
Yeah.
मैंने कम बच्चे देखे हैं जो उर्दू बोल पाते हैं बट या
Um,
दे ऑल ऑफ देम अंडरस्टैंड क्योंकि घर में उर्दू बोली जा रही होती
see.
है तो बोलते हुए थोड़ा सा दे कैन प्रॉब्ली अ बिट बट लेकिन हाँ बट बहरहाल थैंक यू मैम आपने अच्छा बड़ा अच्छा बेटा आपने एक्सप्लेन किया इट्स ग्रेट सो इट वेरी मच अलाइंस विद व्हाट हम आई कोड गुरु पर करते हैं तो इट्स ग्रेट कि आप उन चीज़ों को आपने अफर्म किया है हैकाथॉन्स एक ऐसा है जो आपने भी यू आर आल्सो पार्टिसिपेटिंग इन दैट तो वी हमारे भी स्टूडेंट्स हैं जो दे पार्टिसिपेट, हम हैकाथॉन्स में उनको लेके जाते हैं।
Mhm.
और स्पेशली जो आपने फोकस किया कि हाउ यू आर बिल्डिंग अप योर कैरियर विद रिसर्च, विद इंटर्नशिप्स, विद हैकाथॉन्स, राइट? इट्स ग्रेट टू सी दैट कि आप किस तरह ग्रो कर रही हैं, और हमारे स्टूडेंट्स के लिए इट्स अ मोटिवेशन कि वो ये पाथ फॉलो करें एंड दे सी हाउ दे कैन ग्रो इन दी इनटू द प्रोफेशनल फील्ड। सो आपने ये नहीं बताया आप किस ईयर में है? यू आर डूइंग अंडरग्रेड, राइट?
Gee, I'm in my third year.
अच्छा, सो वन मोर ईयर टू गो, राइट? एंड देन
Gee.
यू आर डन विद योर अंडरग्रेड। अच्छा, चलें, दैट्स ग्रेट, दैट्स ग्रेट। चलें, let's go to the questions. But yeah, it's great to know you and know your profile. MashaAllah, it's great to have you in our community at our iCode Guru. और students, आप भी ऐड करें सारा खान को अपने लिंक्डइन पे, और या कीप कनेक्टिंग विद हर। अगर आपको कोई गाइडेंस चाहिए, आई होप शी विल बी एबल टू गाइड यू। बट
Sure.
या वी गेट एस्पिरेशन फ्रॉम दोज पीपल, राइट? जिस तरह हाउ शी इज बिल्डिंग योर कैरियर, शी इज बिल्डिंग हर कैरियर इनटू द टेक डोमेन, किस तरह वो बैलेंस कर रही हैं डिफरेंट चीज़ें, सिर्फ स्टडीज पे फोकस नहीं कर रही, हाउ शी इज ग्रोइंग। और किस तरह वो जहाँ पर मुस्लिम स्टूडेंट एसोसिएशंस या उसमें वो किस तरह रोल प्ले कर रही हैं, दैट्स समथिंग व्हिच इज मोटिवेटिंग फॉर ऑल ऑफ अस। तो या लेट्स गो टू क्वेश्चंस। थैंक यू मैम।
Of course. Let's see if there's any. Okay, yeah, there's some questions here. Let me see if I
राइट,
missed.
मैं नेम्स कॉल कर देती हूँ मैम सारा, और हम क्वेश्चंस ले लेते हैं। सो
Alright.
मिराज अवान, आप अपना क्वेश्चन करना है मैम। मैम मिराज, अगर आप बोल रही हैं तो हम सुन नहीं सकते। राइट, सर मोहम्मद जासिम सर, आप अपना क्वेश्चन कर सकते हैं।
Okay. So, first of all, thank you for this wonderful webinar. There was a lot of things and it was like amazing. So I have two questions. First is about your project during your high school, I believe. You mentioned that you got to know that that was kind of an innovation at that time that you introduced logistic regression into it. So my question would be kind of specific, like as of now, if you were to pick an innovative kind of project, what steps or like how would you look into it? Like how would you find that out? And my next question is about personal branding. Like, can you elaborate more on that about like how can we build personal branding, like in terms of our field and stuff?
Yeah, so those are some good questions. Thank you for asking those. As far as that project that I referenced, the iCoped app, I think, yeah, at the time, I think that was like something that wasn't really heard of. It wasn't even from an industry standpoint really a big thing. So I'd say now, if you look at that project now and then compare it, it's a very standard thing. It's a very normal thing. So if I were to approach maybe another even more innovative idea, again, it's hard to tell. It depends on what you're. One thing I will say though, again, when it comes to medical implementations with AI is if you're gonna do a personal project, one roadblock is like you have to make sure it's like feasible, it works, and that you have to get research backed on it. So, for example, like when I talked about my experience with that trueHue startup, the medtech startup, they already had a patent. It was already verified by researchers and doctors and ophthalmologists. So that issue was like out of the way. They were able to implement everything. But if you're like just like one person, you're trying to do a project, you have to either work with a team, work with some researchers or something like that, where you can validate the idea and then do it. And then there's also the other issue of, privacy. Like in the US, we have HIPAA, which is like a big data privacy when it comes to medical data. I know there's some public data sets that you can find that are sometimes synthetic that you can work with as well if you're doing a more simpler project. But I would say when you're talking about those types of projects from a medical standpoint now is more difficult to run around unless you are doing it with a lab. That's part of the reason why I suggested joining a lab. They sometimes you don't have to worry about that because it's already the ideas there. You're just kind of helping them work on it and take it out further. Um, so again, it also depends on the idea that you're working with. I think now it's a little bit harder because AI is really common. You've already seen a lot of people do different projects, and even like AI has gotten so advanced that you can do simpler projects and write the code using an AI more easily. So I think what's gonna really make an AI project now stand out is the understanding also behind the problem, which is why I emphasize the um, aspect of industry knowledge. When I was doing the hackathon, I ran into roadblocks, not because my idea was bad, but because I didn't understand completely like the aspect of the environmental stuff that I was trying to work with. So I think, again, getting that industry knowledge and validation is going to be more of a roadblock now when it comes to those projects. But I think the innovation aspect is still very much there. um, you don't want to do something that's already there. Obviously, it doesn't really add much it doesn't add much value to you or whoever is looking at your project. But yeah, I think leveraging the, I guess I call it like the pre-processing aspect, where you really understand the topic, you understand the problem, and then move forward at getting past those barriers. And then your other question was about personal brand. So personal brand, I think when I talk about that, I'm just really referencing uh, when you're on LinkedIn, for example, you're looking at someone's profile. Some people have their internships and everything, and you're like, okay, yeah, it's a pretty normal person, right? But then you look at some profiles, you're like, wow, that person's very successful. I can tell that they're very passionate about what they do. They have a clear intention and mindset with the work that they want to do. I think focusing on uh interest that you have. So obviously with AI, there's so many things you can do, so many areas you can go into. It's better to uh know what you want to do, kind of explore what you want to do, and then really emphasize that when you are talking about your profile or talking about yourself, that makes you stand out more. Because it's like, yeah, other people are also doing these little projects here and there, but oh wow, your project is very deep. It was developed with a lot of research. You put in a lot of time and effort into it. You took it this far. You got a patent on it. You did a lot with it there. So it's about emphasizing impact over just doing things and adding them to your resume. So I'd say if you're in college, like me too, if you're trying to build personal brand, it's a little hard because you're already trying to learn where you're at too. Like, what do you even want to do? Sometimes it's a confusing thing. But I'd say instead of trying to learn everything, it's better to silo and focus on something that you have an interest in, see if you like it, keep going with it, um, pursue opportunities in it, and it will show in your resume, in your profile when people are looking at that, and it makes you more marketable as well. So, yeah.
Okay, sir. Sayyid Saim Ali.
Ma'am, I have a question. First of all, thanks for sharing your journey. And you are talking about building industry knowledge, and I want to ask, what is the best way for a student to start? Is it more about reading up on the industry or getting early practical experience?
That's a good question. I feel like um, obviously those things go hand in hand. I think when you're in a internship or a job that is specific to something you like in that industry, that's going to obviously give you a hand up. Like when I did the med tech startup work, that already gave me more validation on that end, because it's like, okay, you clearly know what it's like to work in a medical space with technology. But I know sometimes it's already hard to break into those certain areas, because I feel like even to know what you want to do, you still have to do your own personal research. You have to kind of, see the direction that you're going. So if I'm talking like even to my little brother who's currently a high school student who's interested in cybersecurity, and I tell him all the time like to start researching into what he likes, because if even if you have an idea of something you want to do, you can't really explain it to someone or can't really pursue it until you look into it a little bit, see what it is that you like about it or what aspects you can learn about it further, and then you know, apply to an internship, apply to a research lab, things like that. So it takes a lot of self-initiative. I'd say first, like just take your own initiative, look up things on your own. If you're interested in finance, look up what's the biggest issues in finance or what's the fundamentals of finance. I actually have a certification where I did the fundamentals of finance during my internship, so that again, that also adds that you know how to work with data, you understand data and money at the same time type of thing. So yeah, just doing things on your own. That can also be supplemented with school though. If you have the time in your career or the ability, try to do a minor in what you're interested in. I'm doing a minor in economics because I had the ability to, and I feel like it adds a lot of value for me in terms of my own knowledge and then pursuing projects along the lines of that. And economics is very broad, so you could really do a lot with it. Some people double major, some people, uh, focus their work on a specific area. So yeah, I'd say if you can in school, try to take coursework if you can. Otherwise, do your own research. Present that interest to a research lab. Be like, hey, I'm really interested in this. Or when you're talking to someone in an interview, I'm really interested in this. When they see that you're knowledgeable and that you've already tried to seek knowledge, then they're more likely to kind of give you that opportunity, and then that takes you further into building that industry knowledge or experience and having that personal brand. So, yeah.
Right, moving to the next question, ma'am Hina Arshad.
Hi, also thank you for a very great and insightful. My question is related to networking. You talked about, I think, the opportunities that you got because of your network, right? So,
Yeah.
what do you suggest how we can build that? Especially for me, I'm speaking from the point of view of a person with like pursuing her PhD, but I've done my graduation, I've done my undergrad. So, how can I build my network and how to like utilize those network connections to kind of like grasp the right opportunity at the right time?
No, that's a good question because I kind of was in the same situation where when I was leaving high school, I was thinking like everyone was talking about connections and all these things. I'm like, I don't have that. How do I even start that, right? When I don't really have much to offer someone. But I mean, I had a family friend again who I was connected with that helped me to get one connection, and then he has a whole startup, so that kind of blossomed into, he has this whole network. He's associated with YC, which is like a big startup funder in New York. So that already opened up a lot of doors for me, and then he was able to connect me with other people if I was interested in something. Same thing can go for a professor. A lot of professors, even if they're not necessarily doing research or in the thing that you're interested in, they maybe know someone in the department. Maybe they know someone like a friend that works for another company and that has that experience can either help you or guide you more. Because connections aren't just about getting a job. Maybe like some people only do connections so they can get in touch with a recruiter, which is fine. But I think building connections and keeping your connections is also about learning from them. They have knowledge that you can't readily easily access. They have ability to explain something or understand something that someone else probably, even a professor, probably can't even tell you. So I'd say, you just start with what you already have. If you're a college student, if you have professors, talk to your professors. Sometimes they're already doing some other research that maybe you don't even know about. That also shows a lot of interest. If you know any friends who have friends that work at a certain company, that can also be a great starter. Also, LinkedIn, I think, is a really good thing. I have used LinkedIn. I've had LinkedIn for a long time, actually, but I started really making connections on it about a year or two ago. I just start connecting with a lot of people already at the university, and then the more suggestions that pop up, I'm able to see more people. I connect with them. I sometimes message them separately, which is a thing that is a hit or miss because sometimes cold messaging, they don't reply. Sometimes they leave you on read, but sometimes you get the best opportunities through that too. So again, I think leverage social media like LinkedIn, for example. I think LinkedIn is probably the best way. I know some people try to email, but that doesn't always work. LinkedIn is I think the best way to do it. And then try to keep up if you have certain connections that you really want to keep in the future or that you know will be useful later in your career. Follow up with them maybe every 3 months or every 6 months. Just like let them know what you're doing, get to catch up with each other, and just have that so that it's not like, oh yeah, you talked to me once, but I don't remember you, or I don't. They kind of forget about you in the long run as well. So I'd say building those connections through what's available to you, right? The people around you, friends, family, through social media, and keeping those connections, because that can sometimes lead into a job offer or an opportunity that you would have never thought about. So, yeah.
ओके मैम, मिराज आप अपना क्वेश्चन करिए।
Hello, am I audible?
Yes.
जी मैम।
Okay, ma'am Sarah, it's great to see you here. I have a question that I'm doing an internship in data analytics. So, what you suggest me that which domains specifically should we focus on to build a great portfolio? Like, which product should we focus on?
Yeah, so can you tell me more about like, I guess, what you're doing or what's like your tasks, day-to-day tasks in your internship?
I'm currently working on Power BI.
Okay.
So, doing some dashboards in business analytics.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, so I think, so are you asking what's like the best things you can do during your time there? Is that what you're asking?
yeah,
Okay. So I think yeah, I think that's a very good internship experience. It's going to go a long way for you. Power BI is a very, like when I look at other internship roles, it's a very high in demand tool when it comes to data analytics and visualization. So that's good that you have that. Definitely add that to your resume. I'd say one thing that just from an intern standpoint that might help you stand out is you're creating these dashboards, right? And I'm sure they're kind of like giving you some direction on what to do and how to do it. But something that shows more initiative is suggesting something new, being like, hey, I noticed something like this. I think we could improve it by adding this feature or implementing that instead. Obviously, they expect that from you to an extent, but when they see that you kind of initiate that and you're kind of thinking about something new, that can create more of an impact on their business, that's also really important. It's going to help you stand out to them. And then when you're on your resume and you're writing down what you did, you can say, yes, I initiated A, B, C, D, which I think people care more about impact and results when they look at your internship resume, not just, oh yeah, I did these normal tasks, right?
yeah.
So even with a very normal task like using Power BI for dashboards, you can make it very personable and very impressionable by really understanding what they want from you, asking them questions, right? And then trying to implement something new or suggest something new. I think that's going to go a long way for you. So,
Okay, thank you. And the other question, like, which one thing you think that got into your Ivy League?
could you repeat that?
Which the thing that got into you the Ivy League, like the big universities in America, right there.
I go to a Penn State. I don't go to like a Ivy League or like a necessarily very competitive school. I think it's a good school for engineering, technology, things like that. But if you're just talking about like getting into like competitive universities or just
Yeah,
making yourself more better on applications, when I was applying, I don't know how it necessarily works for you guys in Pakistan, but when we apply in the US, it's like you obviously send over like your general stuff, like your GPA, the courses you've taken, how well you've done on certain exams. But then there's a whole list that you have of like extracurriculars. You can write down up to 10 extracurriculars that you've done either in school or outside of school that either relate to your education or what you want to pursue. And so I really took advantage of that. I was planning out even before I was a senior, what did I want to put on that list? Because I know when I get to senior year, I want to make sure I have a really solid extracurricular list. So I'm not sure where you're at in terms of like high school or like when you're going to graduate, but I'd say focusing on, I think when it comes to high school students, leadership is a big thing. Did you maybe join a club? Are you a leader in a club? Did you start a club? Um, another thing is, I know it depends on the school and like the opportunities you have. I had joined the STEM club as well. I had STEM club on mine. I did a lot of my things, I'll be honest, outside of school because my school that I went to, there wasn't a lot of opportunity besides the STEM club. And so um, I did a lot of like self-start initiatives. I included the project I did in high school. If you can do a project, if you can do something like a personal project, that would go a long way, technically speaking, and also for your resume. I'm just trying to think at this point. A lot of those types of things where it's like you didn't just do something, but you made an impact or you did something very
yeah,
useful. Um, so yeah, I think I'm assuming you're going to obviously like apply for like a technical major, so definitely highlighting more of the technical stuff you've done, leadership, and that shows that you are very you're very able, even beyond technical aspects, you know how to communicate, you know how to lead, really highlighting that stuff. So yeah,
Thank you so much.
of course.
मैम अरीबा आबिद मैम आप अपना क्वेश्चन करें.
Okay, Assalamu alaikum. Thank you so much, Ma'am Sarah, for your time with us today. It was a very informative session. Okay, my question would be that as you mentioned earlier that you had to work on huge amounts of data during your internships, like in IBM. Do you think one should learn big data skills before we apply to big tech, or do you think that would help stand out from other stand us out from other applicants who have simply done maybe like a lot of hackathons, have great projects on CV, and great lead code skills, etc. Because I think hackathons don't really help you build big data skills unless you have some industrial experience, maybe.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I think I'll be honest, I'm not sure how you build specifically big data experience. I think that comes when you've only worked in a big company and you're actually able to do that. I think, because I'll be honest, but most other people I know that don't have a big tech internship, but they've done internships in other places. I don't think it's a big deal if you haven't had that experience. Again, when I was applying to IBM, obviously I had these startups. I think they were more intrigued by my ability to work at these startups, do something a little bit original, and then have that personal brand. I think it would be helpful to work with the data in general. So, for example, there's so much public data out there. There's like Kaggle data sets. I know UC Irvine has like a whole machine learning repository where you can just use those data sets and do whatever projects you want with them. So I think it's less about big data. It's more about, can you just work with data in general? Do you know how to create a reasonably well project? Um, and if you're concerned about not having big data experience, but let's say you do have hackathons and all these other projects you've done, I think that's actually not too big of an issue as far as I can tell. I think, especially at the university level, when you're applying to an internship, they're not really expecting you to like come in with like another big tech experience. So I think, I don't know about full time, that's probably a different story, but I will say for internship level, you're fine. I think focusing on all the other things that we've talked about, specifically like just other projects, research, hackathons, because that shows that you have coding and technical abilities. The big tech part is something that only comes with actually being in a big tech company. So, yeah.
Right. Thank you so much.
Yep.
Sir Abaz Ahmed.
Thank you very much, Sarah, for your time here. So I am a mechanical engineer. I'm done with my graduation and currently doing job in an industry. So my question is just out of curiosity that how different the life of a student in US as compared to Pakistan, if you can compare. Do they also feel or face difficulty in getting some job in the US after their graduation? And yeah, if as a mechanical engineer, I want to apply for some remote job in US, so what skills should I have, or should I be physically present in the US, or I can grab a job in US being in Pakistan right now?
Yeah, those are really good questions. I think a lot of those situations depend. Um, as far as if you're comparing like the whole US students versus international students, or in Pakistan specifically, I think that I'll just say right now at this stage, a lot of people, even in US students, are struggling to get jobs after graduation and in internships because of the job market. Our job market is just really bad right now. But I do notice, especially with my international friends, they do struggle to get jobs in the US, especially as interns, because of the visa stuff, not really because they're not necessarily capable or they have less experience. So I think it's more of a issue with that. But um, if you're talking about getting like a US based job and then you're in Pakistan, I know some companies that are like they're based in one area, but they have openings in different areas. I mean, I know that's more of a big company thing. Obviously, like IBM has that. They have people all over the world that work for the company, but it depends. I've seen when I was looking at LinkedIn and some of the jobs I was perusing through, they did have one that was like, it's based in New Jersey, but they also were accepting applications from India or Pakistan. So those exist. You have to look for them, I think, but uh, I don't think if there is a job that is available like that, nothing will really stop you as long as you have the skills that they're looking for. Now you said you have a mechanical engineering background, which is really great, but you want to like see how you can get into data or get into tech. I think if you already have a degree and you're trying to break into tech, it's actually not too bad because I've seen some people, even without college degrees, they take some certification courses and they're able to work in a tech field. I know people that worked at Amazon that said, yeah, I didn't go to college. I just took this many years of my own coursework and then I was capable enough to join this team. So the fact that you're already a graduate, the fact that you've already done a very difficult degree, and that might actually help you because you have a mechanical engineering background. Maybe you could apply to a company that is more based in mechanics, but they need an AI position if you do certain certifications and stuff. I'd say just if you're really like starting from scratch, do like the introductory ones with like introduction to Python for data science on Coursera, or even again like IBM, all these other companies have certifications. Do the introductory ones that really help you to understand just the fundamentals of coding, what different machine learning algorithms are, things like that. I can't say for sure how far you'd have to go into it. I haven't done like uh, too deep of a certification search, but I know being able to use Python is important. Understanding fundamentals of data science is really important. I know certain libraries in data science are really important to know, like Scikit, PyTorch, things like that. So if you wanted to further into understand those libraries, that would probably be useful. I'd say another thing just for you that might help is if you have a friend or someone that is in tech, they might be able to help give you more guidance on what specific courses or certifications you can do since you're coming from a more already advanced background, but you just need the technical courses for it. So yeah, I think you're actually in a good
Yeah,
position.
exactly.
Yeah.
That
So
was the
yeah.
exact thing that I was thinking because like you have the background in computer science and I am a mechanical engineer, so maybe some mechanical engineering background student or professional can give me more accurate and aligned guidance on this thing.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think, yeah, just focus on the certification part first. I think a lot of them are free. A lot of them may cost you something, but there's some that are readily available online that are accepted everywhere. Like from Coursera, that can be accepted in Pakistan or the US. They would treat it the same. So it's not necessarily an issue of like, okay, you did it in Pakistan, you're in Pakistan, so it's not the same. They have things that you can do on the internet that would be accepted anywhere. Now, I can't guarantee about the job thing with like US jobs. Again, that depends on the job listing itself. Do they want people from different countries or are they not open to that? It depends on that. And you're also looking for full-time roles, which is a little bit different when it comes to thinking about hiring. So I'd say, I mean, I know you're interested in that. I think one thing I would say just focus on learning, focus on learning Python, data science fundamentals. Coursera, IBM have really great courses for that. Um, and then if you want to advance yourself a little bit further, like I said, look into specific libraries and how they're used. Scikit-learn is a very, very popular library, as among many others. And then I'd say also look into a job in Pakistan. I'm sure that obviously they have a lot of jobs there, but start there too. Because even my dad, for example, like when he was starting out, he studied in Pakistan and then came to the US and got a job in the US. I think part of the reason why he also got the job very quickly in the US was because he already had work experience in Pakistan, had his schooling from Pakistan, so they could tell he was very capable and already had that. So that also might help you get a job if you're looking for a remote job that's based from the US, then that would probably be a good way. So
Okay, हम next question लेते हैं जी साबिर अली.
First of all, thank you so much, ma'am, for such a great webinar here. So, मैम मेरा क्वेश्चन ये है कि क्या कोर्सेरा सर्टिफिकेशन बूस्ट करता है हमारे सीवी को इफ यस देन हाउ, क्योंकि हमें ये फील होता है कि हम जस्ट एक कोर्स कर रहे होते हैं और हमें जो है रियल टाइम एक्सपोजर इससे नहीं मिलता।
Hmm.
तो इस रिलेटेड आपकी क्या एक्सपीरियंसेस है?
Yeah, I agree. I think that there's two parts to it. It's like you do the coursework, you do the certifications. It helps you learn, yes, but again, that's why I also emphasize projects because that also demonstrates your learning and it demonstrates that you knew what you did from that. So if you have done some certifications, you're like, okay, how can I apply this? Think of it a project idea, or there's a lot of like project templates out there where you can search up, how can I apply these skills? And then it will give you some ideas. Use this project, try this project. There's some tutorials out there. So if you feel like you're kind of doing stuff, but you're not really learning or you haven't applied it, that's where I think it's time to do a good project. Um, or if you're a student, get involved in research. That would also be a great way to express your abilities. So yeah, I think I would just focus on projects if you feel like you've already done a lot of the learning.
ओके मैम यमुना।
Alaikum, Sarah. First of all, thank you so much for having us. My question is that I am currently in my third year, and I'm also doing CS. So all the things that you have mentioned in your session, I realized that I haven't done any of the thing until now, and I'm in my third year. So I'm very concerned now, and I want to ask that the summer is near, and I want to utilize my summer. So as you have mentioned about projects, but I'm not sure that what sort of projects I have to do on my own. Like I don't have any internship like you did, but I want to add some weight in my CV. So what projects specifically I should have to choose so that I don't like waste my time and like they become useful for me. Like add some weight in my CV and because I don't have anything beside my CGPA right now. Like seriously, I haven't done any research work. I haven't done anything yet. So, what is your suggestion on this?
Yeah, no, I understand. I understand your frustration and worry a little bit because and don't worry, you're not alone. I think there's a lot of people even into their third year and sometimes even fourth year where they're like, I didn't really feel like I did much. How can I leverage what I know and what I don't know? So, I will say you said you have the summer right now and you're kind of trying to figure out what to do. If you don't have an internship, I think the one thing that people tend to do a lot is projects. Even if it's like one or two projects, but like a really solid projects that you can add to your resume. So then when you enter back into the school year, it's like, okay, I've done something over the summer, I've learned something, I'm not just starting from where I was last year. Um, I think implementing there's a lot of things again that you can do in AI when it comes to projects. It doesn't have to be, again, like I said, super, super innovative, like something you've never seen before, but it has to be, you put some thought into it, it's personalized a little bit. Um, some big things are using LLMs, for example, maybe doing something with an LLM, maybe making an AI assistant that gives certain suggestions or optimization, right? Maybe using RAG, right? Retrieval augmented generation. It's kind of like what I did with the chatbot. Obviously, that was through an internship, but you could still do your own implementation of RAG for your own use case. You could do, I know someone was mentioning an early question about dashboards, BI, using Power BI and creating their own dashboards. You can also do something like that where you infuse AI into it a little bit. It doesn't even have to be strictly AI. It can be something that's already kind of out there, but you kind of add your twist to it by adding an AI component. That's kind of what I did when I was doing my hackathon, for example, where I made like a sustainability tracker. That was like the project because it was all about reducing carbon footprint. Obviously, that exists out there. A lot of people have apps and things like that for that. But what I added was sort of an AI, Gen AI aspect where you not only know how much you're tracking, how much you're using, but you get personalized um, results on how to reduce your footprint. What can you do less of the week after? And then you'll reduce it by A, B, C. So it's always about, sometimes it's not even creating something all the way new. It's about also what we already have, what's already been used, and then adding a touch to it. And I think what also will help make your projects more grandiose, I guess, is you didn't just make the project, you did like the full stack. Maybe you made a really nice user interface. right? So when someone's using your app, it's like, wow, it's really well set up. Maybe you have a little bit of extra features on the side. You maybe created a presentation to go along with it. Obviously, that's something you do in a hackathon, yes, but if they see that in a personal project, you put that much effort, it also shows that you can take an idea from scratch, build a technical solution, explain it well, present it well, and like you have it like a full package basically. And that's obviously something that would help from a professional standpoint. When you're in your professional work, you're not just working with AI, you have to present it to people. Sometimes you're working with non-technical people, sometimes you're doing all that. So even though you don't have an internship, you don't have that work experience and you feel like you're missing that, you can build those skills or at least showcase those skills through your own work, through your own projects. And so I'd say if you're really passionate about something, even if you're not, you can just start researching like is there gaps in AI? Are there gaps in a certain industry with AI? And then think about that problem, maybe think about a solution. And with what you've learned in the classroom, maybe you can join a group, get in a group or something even, and just kind of bounce ideas off and figure out what you want to do. I will say even just doing one of those projects over the summer, it will boost your resume a lot. So don't worry so much about the quantity of things. I know you're thinking like, okay, there's like all these things she mentioned and like I don't have those. It's not even about the quantity, it's the quality. I'd say I did a lot of projects besides what I mentioned, but they were not that great. So I either scratched them or I just don't really mention them on my resume. That happens as well. You don't need to just have everything on there. You just need to have things that are really good. And so as long as you put in that effort over the summer or however long you have to kind of work on something, just do that. And then if you're ever in an interview, you can talk about that and then talk about it from like, I'm really passionate about this. I worked on this, I created that. So it's like you have your own initiative and own creativity that you put into those projects. So that's what I'd recommend for you. But yeah.
So I have another question as well. Like you have mentioned that I should have to focus on like personal project. For example, summer I am doing this. So how can I represent this in my like LinkedIn so that I also can like boost my LinkedIn and like show my skills on the LinkedIn as well. Like I don't have anything yet, but the journey I am like I have a journey. So how can I share it on LinkedIn?
I know if you look at mine, I think it's in the chat, like the link to my LinkedIn. I have a section like down where there's specific projects I've done over the years. I showcase them through there. A lot of my projects I've done, obviously they were technical. Either there's a link to it, I have a link to like the GitHub that I made it on, or I have a presentation that talks about the project. So if you once you complete something, or even if it's in progress, putting it there is going to make it more visible. If you're using LinkedIn to apply to jobs or you're putting it on your resume, that's the way to put it. Um, and then focusing on impact or focusing on the features, just kind of showing it what makes it really special. I think that's going to help you. And of course, this is like a process, right? Like when you're creating a project, a lot of these projects that I worked on took me a while or it took me a couple months to really finalize. So there's no rush, there's no need to have it perfect, but you can definitely showcase it on your LinkedIn that way. Um, and then it would be easier for you to present to a recruiter or whoever else you want to show your projects to. So, yeah.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Ma'am, thanks a lot for this webinar. Dr. Zafar here from Silicon Valley. It is heartening to see that we are talking to somebody from Ivy League. You are going to a great school. So, and thanks a lot for taking time to talk to our students. And students, please add ma'am to your LinkedIn so that you can get further guidance in your careers, because it is very rare to find people who have the passion to help others, especially in the USA because everybody is so busy.
That's
So,
true.
और मुझे भी बड़ी खुशी हो रही है कि हमारे बच्चे इंग्लिश में इतनी आसानी से कंफर्टेबली क्वेश्चन कर रहे हैं. तो लेट्स गो फॉर रेस्ट ऑफ द क्वेश्चंस. और एक दो क्वेश्चंस मेरे लिए हैं, वो जब मैम के क्वेश्चन खत्म हो जाएंगे देन आई विल टेक देम. अभी मैं इंटरप्ट नहीं करना चाह रहा. प्लीज गो टू द नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन.
सर फिजान, सर आप अपना क्वेश्चन कर लो. सर शमीम.
Can I ask my question?
जी सर.
First of all, I have to introduce myself. I am a first year student currently pursuing in a Bachelor's of Science in Data Science, and I currently work as an SEO executive at a tech firm. Based on your experience, I have a question. Are there roles that combine marketing, digital marketing, or SEO with data science? As I have noticed some SEO analyst roles recently, and I am wondering if I should bridge these two fields or focus on one specific path.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think you're actually right on the dot. There's definitely a lot of roles when I look at them now that are combining marketing, SEO, SaaS, all those things together. The company that I worked for, the Cotera, I didn't do anything super data science in that, but some of the roles that my peers were doing, they were exactly that. I think that it's actually more common to find those companies, like marketing companies that are trying to implement more AI into their brand. So I think you're in luck with that. I'd say I see it a lot in startups, and even like at IBM, they have a whole section. They have different areas where they're focusing on. I was focusing on the finance area, but they also have areas in marketing. I know some of my friends that were also interns there that were focusing on the marketing side. So I think it's very feasible. I think it's very possible to find those roles. I think sometimes it's even part of the role, even if it just says like data scientist intern, it's like, yeah, we're expecting you to work with a marketing tool or to somehow improve what we've already had using AI. So um, I'd say that when it comes to marketing stuff, it's kind of hard. Again, I'm not really a big on marketing specifically. I don't know how I can say to like, oh yeah, do this project or do that. I think marketing is one of those things where, at least from a university standpoint, I know a lot of people will join an organization and play a marketing role, for example. That might help you kind of get that experience so then you can eventually work in an area with marketing and AI. Um, so I'd say look out for those companies more. There's a lot of them. I think that if you do end up focusing on that, that's going to be good for you. That's a very high in demand thing because marketing is relevant to every company. AI is becoming relevant to every company, so the demand for that is high. Um, so I'd say try to play roles where you are doing more of a marketing role, where obviously you're building your technical stuff as you're a first year student, you're going to be building that along the way. But if you can join organizations, even student organizations have marketing roles sometimes, social media, focusing on those things, you could be in a very good place in, I'd say, a year or so to get, an internship in that. So, yeah.
Really grateful to have you here. You have done incredibly work, and I would love to ask two questions. One is that at what point do you think someone should take the risk of building their own ideas, even if the odds are, success low, are very low as per the data, as you know that all. So, and instead of choosing a more stable path like big tech, how can someone differentiate he stand out while making that decision? Because we got two kinds of seniority. One, those promoting that we should go for like stable big tech because that will be a dedicated handsome income we'll be having. For startups, we might don't know what works or what not, as big tech is also struggling right now by the thriving and rise of AI.
Yeah, that's definitely a big concern that even me as a student I think about. Because I know like if we talk to our parents even, it's like they think about stability and they think about the big companies, go work at those big tech companies, you'll get good money, you'll have a stable job, whatever. I think even at big tech now, I'm seeing there's a lot of layoffs. Again, a lot of jobs are changing because of AI, especially entry level jobs, which again, there's a lot of concerns around that, but even someone like me who's going to start to apply to full-time soon, that's something I do think about. I think about, even if AI gets better, how do I stay marketable? I think, uh, I'd say this is my general advice. When it comes to being early career like me, part of the reason why I also was happy about working at IBM was because I'm early in my career. Working at IBM already gives me a huge leverage because it's a big tech company, but then it's like, all right, whatever experience you got from there is solid. With startups, it's a hit or miss because I noticed some startups, again, you can do different roles in startups depending on what they offer, but It's more about what they give you and the experience they give you, and then what you do with it. With the program I was in, it was very structured. So you definitely got technical outcomes, you got other outcomes. They focused on making sure that everything was very impactful and that it was systematic. With startups, it's like um, it depends on their demand, it depends on what they're doing right now. I'd say I got lucky with that because both the startups I worked for, I do think I did meaningful work for myself, and that helped my resume. Um, and I know some people, what they do is they'll start at big tech or a big tech company, then they'll leave after a few years and they start a startup. And then their startups sometimes are really successful, right? I think you should start with a more stable, when I say stable, I mean more established company, especially in the early parts, even if you're gonna do something like startups or your own idea one day. Because one thing is it gives you that validity that okay, you have solid experience, you know the work, and you have the skills to do something else. With the business idea, I mean, even with startups, it's like, yeah, you have a tech idea, but it's also the business aspect. You also need to understand a lot more than just the technical part. You need to know how to run a business, and that can also fail. So it's like, yes, there's a lot of risk associated with startups. Again, I have not done a startup. I don't know what it feels like to start a startup. But at this point in my life, I will say for me too, I would recommend staying in a more stable company, at least for a few years in college or out of college. And then if you're really passionate about startup or you have a good idea, I know some people will work part-time and then focus on their startup, or some people leave their job and they only do their startup. But then you can start looking into startups. Because again, you are right, not all startups are going to succeed at the level that you'd want to see them succeed. Um, so the big thing is, all in all, you want to have a solid experience and solid skills that get you to that startup or idea anyways. So you're going to have to have a solid experience at some other company if you want to at least guarantee that. So, yeah.
Okay. The perspective. And second thing, I would love to know that as you mentioned your research work and getting into the things and being doing internship especially, how did you manage that all with even your university at the start? Because as you know, in Pakistan and all other sides, we have to give proper time to university assignments and all the projects things of university, and we didn't get enough time to, because as companies demand a 9 to 5 at least, or 6 hours minimum. So how did you manage both even from the start? And I've also listened out at uh, uh, companies don't consider your previous graduation work. They consider your experience start from the day after being out from the graduation. So what do you think about that? And lastly, I would love to know this, by far with such exposure and experience of these premium places, what do you think the areas and the lasting domains to work on as per the things going on as you are seeing there?
Yeah, no, those are great questions. I think as far as handling all that, especially in my first year, I didn't do all these things at once. So like when I did my internship in the summers, I did it only in the summers. And then the research that I did was during the school year. Um, and so yeah, I knew I wouldn't have been able to do both those things all together with school. So I spread it out across really the 3 years that I've been in college. So I know as a freshman, you're thinking that's a lot of stuff, but you're also a freshman, you have space. If you space these things out, if you want to focus on just research during the school year with your school, and then seek internships and then do an internship during the summer only, that's usually the way people do it. I would recommend doing that so you're not doing too much, obviously, and balancing that out. Um, I will say with the co-op, the IBM internship co-op, I did that during the summer. It was 9 months. So that one lasted into the school year. So I did stop research for a little bit because I was doing school and then 20 hours a week. So again, you also have to do a little bit of a trade-off where if you have certain opportunities, you have to figure out which ones, if you can't do all of them at once, which ones are more important and that I should have focused on, and then put the other aside or work on it at a different point. Again, you don't have to do everything at once, but what you should be doing is really important or impactful. Um, and then you were also saying about kind of like what's in demand, what's like more important to focus on from an industry standpoint. I think I mentioned this in the presentation, like having that industry knowledge in finance. Finance is a big thing when it comes to AI. There's a lot of fintech companies in the US, I know for sure. So that a lot of people that I know, even in my own class, they're focusing on fintech. They have internships at JP Morgan and all these other banks. So that's a big one. I think economics is a big one as well. One of my friends is double majoring in economics. I'm doing a minor in economics, and she wants to work more on the economic side when it comes to consulting with data science because now she has the domain of economic knowledge, but she's also able to apply her technical knowledge and then help people figure out solutions because she has that knowledge. So I'd say even if you're going to a technical role that maybe isn't directly using that thing that you studied, it's always going to add because you have more knowledge about that in general. It can create better solutions, more informed decisions, things like that. So if you're going to go into any of those things, I'd say either do finance, economics, or medicine, biotech, something like that. I know biomedical engineering is a big thing these days. Some people are double majoring in that, or they do a minor in it. So you have a little bit more medical context. So yeah, I'd say look into those things if you are interested in that. So
Thank you.
All right, so Ma'am Sarah, wonderful webinar. Thank you so much for your time, and we learn a lot from your journey and expertise. So secondly, I want to share that the webinar has been running for 1.5 hours now. So if you want, if you'd like to leave, so you may do so. Dr. Zafar and Dr. Zwan with us, so we can tackle more queries of participant or rest of the queries. Is my voice audible?
Yes, ma'am, your voice is audible.
Ma'am Sarah, हमारे साथ हैं?
yes, sorry, I don't know, the voice cut out.
तो मैम सारा वो आपको कह रहे थे कि if you have more time then yeah of course you can stay, but लेकिन चूंकि already it has been 1.5 hours, so if you want to drop you can drop.
I can stay longer. I know. How many more questions do we have actually?
Maybe 4 or 5 people have raised hands. अच्छा, मेरा एक क्वेश्चन था मैम आपसे कि अभी जो because you are into this domain, right? There is the people are talking कि AI की वजह से software engineering will go down, right? This is something which is you can say talk of the town, right? अभी कल मैं वो जो है क्लॉड के सीईओ का इंटरव्यू देख रहा था, एंड ही वाज सेइंग कि जो VS कोड है, जो IDEs हैं, by the end of the year they will disappear because people will not need IDEs to code. They will just do prompt coding, right? So
right.
Prompt coding mein you will not need these fancy IDEs to debug or to scroll through the code, right? That तो और थोड़ा सा हम ये देख भी रहे हैं सिलिकॉन वैली में कि जो एंट्री लेवल जॉब्स है ना वो थोड़ी सी रिस्ट्रिक्ट हो रही हैं. व्हाई? बिकॉज द पीपल एट दिस टाइम AI इज नॉट टेकिंग ओवर, लेकिन एक परसेप्शन सा आ गया है कि जो एंट्री लेवल जॉब्स हैं ये तो आप अपने एजेंट से करवा लेंगे. यू विल नॉट नीड सॉफ्टवेयर इंजीनियर. जिस तरह आप देखें ना, अगर मैंने एक इंजीनियर हायर करना है यंग, तो मैं उसको क्या टास्क दूंगा? आई कैन give him some tasks of review of code, of some scripting, some low level tasks जो कि people have a perception कि शायद AI ये करना शुरू कर दे, and we will not need these. So what is your perspective being in this domain? कि क्या ऐसा would the industry be leading towards that कि we see software engineering will lose its prime time, which it has been there for the last 20 plus years?
Yeah, no, that's something that I also think about a lot as a student who's literally going to graduate soon. I've talked to some of my connections, like one of the startup that I worked for, Cotera. I talked to my boss a couple months ago actually because I wanted to catch up with him, but I asked him this question too, like kind of along the lines of it, like I'm seeing AI get really good. You know, a lot of these entry level jobs are either disappearing or there's not much need for it anymore. And what he said kind of gave me good insight. He said he's noticing the same thing when it comes to entry level roles, but he doesn't think that these skills will go away, or it's like jobs are just going to be done for us. It's like they're just going to prioritize certain skills over other skills. So I know one thing that's more important now is AI literacy, right? So using Claude Code, Gemini to help people code and like put in their prompts, right? That's something that even in class, my teachers in class even recommend that you start using AI in your projects, not to do the project itself, but to get used to using it because you're going to end up using it at some point. And I think that's true. I think we need to learn to adapt to using what already exists, but we still have to also value the aspect of our own thinking, of our own engineering process. AI can do things well, I agree. I've seen it like create really great websites, interfaces. It does those things well, and that does obviously take away from people who may be focused only on front-end development, right? But I think what's going to matter more is how, are you able to use that AI to get an idea, but your ideas still come from you. Your engineering process still comes from you. Um, and I think that people who are graduating now are already seeing the impact of that. I'm kind of seeing the impact of it already. But that's the thing I'm also trying to do here is focus on not just knowing the languages, right? I know the languages, I know the code, but how do I know how to problem solve? Do I know how to think systematically? Because if like even at a big tech company, if you're using AI to write your code, that happens, right? But then it's like, what if you run into a really huge problem and it's like a really deep problem with the system? Now, AI can't really solve that. It's only the people who understand how the system works, who understand the whole engineering process can do that. So I think that we just have to pivot our abilities into not just learning to write code and learning the code, but to be able to create things from scratch, to design, to create, ideas. That's why I also emphasized in the presentation, like creating your own projects. Because when you create your own projects, you're going through that process on your own. You have to think of a problem, you have to think of a solution, you have to think of the roadblocks, you do all of that. And so it's like, oh, this shows me that this person not only knows how to code something, but that they are able to start with a problem, think of a solution, negotiate that solution, go back and forth, but have a product at the end. And I know this will definitely take away jobs, but I also think it can create more jobs. I think it can create more opportunity for us to adapt to the new technologies, to the new abilities that Gen AI has. So obviously there's a little bit of uncertainty. This is only my opinion. I don't even know if this will be true. No one really knows for sure what's going to happen. But I wouldn't say to the people who are graduating or the people who are pursuing computer science or anything that you're done for. I think there's still a lot of opportunity. Um, it makes us more efficient. I think that uh, just focus on more of the high level soft skills too. Are you able to communicate well? Are you able to think well? Are you able to problem solve well? Focus on those things more because that's going to be more important now than just, oh, do you know this coding language type of thing. So yeah.
They're very impressive and very mature response from a very young kid like you. I mean, it's really impressive. Yeah, that's true, right? It will create new opportunities. There will be a shift, of course, right? जिस तरह हमने जब आप तो उस वक्त we have seen that process, right? जब कैसेट्स थी, ऑडियो कैसेट्स थी, फिर सीडीज आई, फिर यूएसबी डिवाइसेस आए. अब everything is online, right? You buy a car and there is no CD or DVD player, right? So we saw and the people who were in CD or DVD business, if they didn't transform, they were soon out of the business. So that's how the transformation of this AI, like website creation, right? In early 2000, it was a big carrier, right? आपको अगर website बनानी आती है, you are eagerly sought. Now, right, with these tools, nobody needs someone to create a website. Yeah, that's right. और इसमें I was impressed with your profile of adding research into this, क्योंकि AI can do research, but still it needs some information, existing information, and then it creates from that, right? लेकिन जब आपके प्रोफाइल में रिसर्च ऐड होती है, that gives you one added advantage, right? That's something which AI can infer, but it cannot think on its own and solve research problems. और जो आपने बात की इसकी डिजाइन की, that's where we focus. और हम अपने स्टूडेंट्स को भी ये कहते हैं कि it's not just coding कि आप सिर्फ कोडिंग करते रहें. You need to understand system design. That's where the expertise comes in. So impressive, man. Well, it's a great answer. Thank you.
Thank you.
So moving towards the next question, Ma'am Rida Zahra.
Hello, Assalamualaikum.
Walaikum assalam.
Ma'am, thank you so much. First thing is that you designed this webinar. This is very impactful for everyone and for young youth. And my name is Rida Zara. I have completed my bachelor in English literature. So please tell me what suggestion you should like to give me related to my background from English literature, and which field should I go to, and which internship should I join?
So do you want to use your English degree, but you want to go into a technical field? Is that what you want to do?
Ma'am, actually my degree is English literature background, so I have completed in 2024 last month, December.
Okay. So,
Yeah.
are you looking for, when you say like where can you go with this, are you talking about how you can uh pivot into a technical area or learn more about technical stuff and use your degree, or what kind of role are you looking at?
Ma'am, I'm looking about related to my background because if I out my background, then it's not benefit for me, I think, according to my suggestion. I don't know okay, it is better for me or not. So I join related to my background and internship or others opportunities. So what do you think about it?
I know that English will probably help. I know that a lot of communications roles, people have like English background or English major. I think that
Okay.
you could do something like that for sure. I know, like, we talked about this with the previous question about someone was doing something with marketing and they were talking about AI and marketing and things like that. I think I mentioned this too is communication, even though it sounds like it's a very normal thing, you'd be surprised. Not a lot of people like know how to really communicate like impactfully. Like everyone can give a presentation, do that stuff, but to really know how to communicate is a skill. And I feel like you could probably go into a role like that, especially now with AI. A lot of roles are emphasizing communicability. Do you know how to present well? Can you explain things well? Can you teach things well? So if you went into a role within communications, and communications is everywhere too, I feel like you could go anywhere with that. And even some AI companies, I know they're opening up more roles along the sides of communication. I know some people also there's going to prompt engineering roles, which it sounds kind of complicated, but all it is like creating different queries, writing out different queries for an AI to generate something, because that also is a skill, right? Because when you're asking AI to do something, part of the way how well it does is also based off of how well you ask it. And so I feel like you could also maybe go into prompt engineering. You don't need anything super technical from that standpoint. And your English background would actually help you in understanding linguistics, AI linguistics. How does AI understand English? Things like that. So you could even, there's research in that too as well. So I'd say something along the lines of communications or linguistics, even relating to AI, can be important. So yeah.
Ma'am, thank you so much. You give me a suggestion. And first thing is, ma'am, when we are going to go to jobs and others internship, then they tell me you have experience or not. So
Mhm.
आप when your suggestions के अगर हम जाएं कोई भी यूथ हम जाते हैं किसी भी कंपनीज में ज्वाइनिंग के लिए अपने एक्सपीरियंस को बिल्ड करने के लिए बिकॉज वी
Yeah.
आर फ्रेशर ग्रेजुएटेड तो वो कहते हैं एक्सपीरियंस नीड है व्हाट यू थिंक अबाउट इट वो अगर हमें एक्सपीरियंस प्रोवाइड करेंगे देन ही हमें एक्सपीरियंस
Yeah.
मिलेगा जब वो हमें एक्सपीरियंस ही नहीं देंगे वो हमसे फ्रेश ग्रेजुएट से ही वो एक्सपीरियंस मांग रहे हैं तो हम एक्सपीरियंस कहाँ से लेके आए बिकॉज वी आर फ्रेशर
Yeah.
फ्रेशर हम यूनिवर्सिटी से पढ़ के आए हैं वो हमें ये अपॉर्चुनिटीज देंगे देन वी एक्सपीरियंस
Mhm.
इन प्रैक्टिकली सो व्हाट यू थिंक अबाउट इट
I agree with you. That's an issue across everywhere, even in the US students. When I was applying to internships in my first year, I went to the career fair, and most of my rejections were just people saying, "Oh, you're a freshman. We don't take freshmen." You know what I mean? So I remember that was a big issue for me with getting a job. And I actually, that's the thing, I didn't get a job or an internship through the traditional way of applying. I got it through connections. I got it through the people that I knew that already had startups, that already had something going, and they saw my experience from like late high school when I did that project, and they're like, "Okay, you seem interested, let's bring you on." It was more of a luck thing for me. So yeah, that getting past that sort of, you know, middle space where you don't have experience, but you want experience and you can't get experience because they don't see your experience is a little frustrating. Um, I know that I can't really say, I think the one thing that helps is again, this depends on the opportunities available to you, but research is more accessible to freshers, I feel like, because they're not expecting much from you. So if you were to join like a research role at the university or wherever you can find one, that's usually more easy. And sometimes they're not paid. A lot of things are usually not paid for people who are freshers, but I'd say still do it for the experience, do it so then when you apply next year, then it gets easier. Because once I had that experience first time on my resume, then it was easy for me to get all these other roles. There was no issue there. So this is like the hardest roadblock probably you're experiencing. But I'd say even if it's like a simple job, it doesn't have to be exactly what your internship that you're looking for is. But like I did a data entry role before I even stepped foot into any startups or any big tech area. That in itself, it's very simple. Everyone can do it. But then it shows, okay, you've done a little bit, so then you can take it a step further. So even if you feel like you can't get like a really big internship or a proper internship, taking a small job that is related to your field to an extent, but isn't the exact thing you're doing still can, you take baby steps into um, the internship that you want. And don't be hard on yourself if you're a fresher. This happens to a lot of people, whether you're in the US or in Pakistan, it happens to a lot of people. I had connections, that was a different story for me. But if I were you and if I feel like I didn't have that and I didn't have any experience that I was working with, I would try to, in my case, I went for a data entry job. Maybe you could go into a job that's more like it could be general teaching or a research role in English or something related to that. Because then it shows that you've applied your English into something so you're capable and you could learn more and do a different role. And for example, if you're interested in AI and English, then you could do your own research about AI. So then it's like, oh yeah, you have a certification about the basics of AI, so you understand AI and you have get background English. How about we bring you on for a role? So sometimes it's also doing a little bit of your own work or certifications on your own if you can, and then bringing that experience to an employer, it makes you better off. But I guarantee you, if you do that, then second year you should be able to land something. So
Thank you so much. Nice to talk to you.
nice talk to you too.
Okay, sir, Zahad.
Thank you very much. My name is Zahad, and I am in undergrad, third semester right now. So my question is regarding to having a warm relationship with your network. Right now, I am holding I am holding connections of CEOs and co-founders and co-founders of different startups and even very successful VPs from United States. Now, because the work they have done in their life, I don't know anything about it. And when I try to text them, they also reply back. They are very kind enough. So now, how can I hold a sustained, warm relationship with them? If I do help, take a help of AI, so it's sometimes when I text them, it really felt like I'm bluffing because we are a social animal and we really sense that from which point of view that question is coming to you. So think of it like you are in New York and you are having anybody from Alaska, chemical engineer, digging minerals over there. So what is your strategy to hold a sustainable, warm relationship with them? Because after 6, 7 months or maybe 6, 7 weeks, things got cold in texting with each other. So any strategy you can share with me?
So what I do when I meet connections, a lot of the connections, the first few connections I had, again, the reason why they were sustained was because it was either a family friend, so there was a family connection in some way, or it was like a friend of my brother. So like it was one of those things where even if we weren't always talking, it's like, oh yeah, I know who they are, that I met them through this person type of thing. As far as connecting with those people, I don't necessarily connect with them all the time or text them all the time or something. Usually what I do is I'll start with like an initial message describing myself if I'm introducing myself and then whatever I'm interested in. And sometimes it doesn't have to be for an internship, but you could just be talking about, hey, I'm interested in the work you do and I just want some advice or like some background on your career, right? So sometimes that can lead into a call. Sometimes I do, even if they're like 15, 20-minute calls, having like a video call with someone, it makes a difference. And so I'd say ask them, hey, can I have a brief 15-minute call with you? We can just chit chat a little bit. that also makes you more memorable, and they might remember you better that way. And then usually, again, it depends on the connection and how important it is to me. I sometimes follow up after a few months if I'm like want to explore something new or talk about maybe something new I've done and what they think about it from a career standpoint. So it doesn't have to be like all the time you're connecting with this person or you have to think of something to talk to them about. It can just be like, taking pauses, having a few months in between, but then like they remember, oh yeah, I talked to you a few months ago about this thing and I remember you from that. So uh, definitely just focus on having meaningful conversations because they're more likely to remember a meaningful conversation even if it happens less often. So yeah.
Okay, I get it. Thank you.
Okay, Sir Ahmad Hassan.
Okay, ma'am. Firstly, thank you so much for your time. So I want to ask that currently I'm in my fifth semester of TS Computer Science and I am studying machine learning. So can you please tell me that how do I study machine learning in a best way? Thank you.
Yeah, of course. I myself am taking a lot of machine learning courses now, and I did last year as well. So with machine learning, a lot of it is, at least the way they structure in my classes, is like we teach you what it's all about conceptually, and then we have labs where we're going into Google Colab and we're writing code and implementing our own model or using data from a certain site and implementing that. And that's what I really feel like it's all about. It's about the learning part. Like, okay, you know how it works, what it is, the components of it, and then you practice it through an assignment or you do like a lab or something like that. I know, again, it depends on if you're talking about through school or personal. If you're talking about personal, certifications help. But then I heard someone else say, like, you can do certifications, but then you don't feel like you learned everything. You can do a little mini project or just do something that helps you to really ingrain it in your head, like, oh yeah, that's how it works, and I understand it better. So machine learning, it's very easy to kind of overlook. I will say, there were a couple courses I took last year that I reviewed concepts, and then this year I reviewed them again and I kind of forgot them because I didn't implement them or I didn't like use them actively. So I'd say really understanding them thoroughly from a conceptual standpoint is very important, partially because not all machine learning algorithms are created equally. Some of them are better than others. Some of them have their strengths and weaknesses. And so having that general knowledge will allow you to know if you're doing a project or if you're even in a work situation, you know what works best for you and your use case. So I'd say focusing in the classroom on learning the concepts, but then outside of the classroom, uh, use your assignments or do whatever you can, like projects to mini projects, nothing crazy, but just something that helps you to implement that and it sticks in your head better. So,
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
yeah.
Okay, Muhammad Sulaiman.
Assalamu alaikum, ma'am.
Welcome, Aslam.
Uh, Ma'am, my question is basically related to your personal project. As you mentioned that personal projects are very necessary. And I also completed a certificate on advanced Google Analytics course and built several projects. I completed the capstone as well. So could you please share your GitHub profile as well, as you have already worked on several projects which are industry based and perfectly aligned with the industry interest. So we can explore your projects and I can see which data sets that you have used and performed thought process, and then I can also perform some necessary actions to build such type of projects as well. And my second question is related to that, like, could you please recommend some tools and technologies which are mainly using in data analytics field right now that could help us to reduce the workload as well? So that is.
Yeah, those are some good questions. I think as far as my personal projects go, when it comes to the data, when I came to personal projects, I didn't use big data. I used what was readily available on the internet. Like if you go on Kaggle, for example, Kaggle has some really good publicly available data sets for a lot of different use cases. Like even if you're trying to do some like detection model for medicine, then you can like search up certain data sets that give you those images, and then you can train it on your own. You can build it all on your own, and then you don't have to worry about any roadblocks there. So I worked with those data sets, and they were not really huge. They were pretty standard. So I'd say don't worry too much about the data you're using or how big it is or how complex it is. Um, just those go a long way when it comes to implementation. Um, and then I'd say as far as the tools I've used in those projects that I've done, specifically like the iCoach app project, and then a couple others like the research one, there's a lot of libraries that you should be familiar with. I think scikit-learn is a popular one. I know that one helps. There's also matplotlib. That's more important for like data visualization, which you kind of mentioned a little bit. Um, and I mean, there's so many out there. These are the ones I've also used in my classes as well. I've learned to use PyTorch as well, which is closely related to Python. And the thing is, I wouldn't focus on just learning all of them. I think you learn them as you go. I didn't really learn about all these things until I realized I needed to, or I had a project where I was like, I don't know what tools to use for this. So it also depends a lot on what you're looking to work on, but I know those three are kind of standard and you can kind of expect to use them a lot, as well as a lot of jobs are looking that you have that experience with those libraries and tools. So I'd say stick with that. Um, yeah, and as far as data dashboards visualization, I have used, I'm not like super in depth with that. I think I just focused on coding languages like R for data visualization. Again, if you're using Python, then use matplotlib. That helps a lot with data visualization, um, and getting sort of that metadata. And other than that, like if you're talking about the internship experience that I had with it, I used IBM's like BI platform. So it's like Power BI. All these things are kind of synonymous with each other. But I just learned how to use that really well. And it was one of those things where, you import data, you get the insights, you can create visualizations, personalized visualizations. I think that would, from that standpoint, would be very useful for also being more marketable. So I can't speak too much on just like the data analytics visualization. I haven't done like super in-depth work there, but I can say for those tools, libraries, those are probably the most useful.
ओके, नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन की तरफ चलते हैं। मैम ज़ारा मैम, आप अपना क्वेश्चन कर लें।
Yeah, thank you. Actually, I'm really curious about how interviews work for technical jobs and internships, and how much experience and knowledge is actually expected. And sometimes it feels like we learn a lot of different things, but they don't always match what the industry really needs. So I'm especially interested in data science. So what's the minimum level of knowledge someone needs to start working professionally in this field? I do have some understanding of machine learning, but that's all that I have done so far.
That's a good question. I know that it depends on the interviews and what the company wants, but generally speaking, when I applied to IBM, they actually did not have a technical interview. They had two interviews. One of them was like behavioral, so they just asked me questions about my experience, right? The other one was it was like they gave me an assignment, and it was like to create a presentation to it was a very specific prompt to kind of see my speaking abilities, my communication abilities, things like that. Again, IBM was more focused on that. And I think because we were interns, that we were only getting there as interns, they were not expecting that we knew. Maybe they weren't worried about assessing our code skills because they were like not worried about that as a skill. They'd teach us along the way. I know most other internships, if they have multiple rounds, it's like, oh yeah, we have a behavioral round and then they have a technical round, and then they give you the offer. I noticed leak code is a big thing. I have not leak coded that much because I didn't really have to with the interviews that I did. And also with what I did in class, that was kind of like my leak code. We practice problems there all the time. So again, I think if you're gonna focus on technical stuff, I noticed for data science roles, they might have leak code, but they also ask you conceptual questions like, oh, what's machine learning? Or what's a neural network? Um, So you might actually not have to worry too much about the coding as much as like maybe a traditional, let's call it like software engineering role, because they're also more concerned that you know the concepts of data science. And like you said, you're learning the concepts, you like know these things. I think just really knowing how things work is going to help you. Again, each interview is different. Some of them don't do leak code, some of them do, some of them completely don't consider it. So it depends on the role that you're applying to. But either way, obviously, like practice your technical aspect a little bit, but focus more on your understanding. Because even if you don't, let's say you were like doing your technical interview and you don't necessarily know something exactly, they're just trying to see how you think. So like you could be like, oh yeah, okay, I don't understand this part, but my approach is ABC. Maybe they would still be like pretty pleased with that. Um, and again, with internships versus full-time, with internships, they're always no, they know that students don't like know everything. They know that you're not gonna be a full-time ready coding and everything. Like they're not expecting the best of the best. They're just expecting that you're a teachable person, that you have already demonstrated some ability somewhere, whether it was classes or school projects, things like that. They're just trying to see the potential. Full-time is a different story. I know that that's a different struggle. I haven't been through it yet because I will be applying next year, but that's where you might want to be more thinking about technical demonstration. Do you know how to code something on the spot if they give you a prompt or think about something logically? Maybe that, again, that might change too because we're also seeing all these Gen AI getting really good at coding. Maybe they'll assess your thinking more. You never know. So I'd say just focus on your understanding where it's at. Practice leak code if you want to, although don't give it all your time. I'd say demonstrating it through your projects, through your other endeavors is going to be more important.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Sir Mohammed Vikas.
Thank you, ma'am, for your words and advice and the way you shared your journey. My question is same as that of Sir Dr. Rizwan, like the role of AI right now as we are facing being in academia and in other fields, maybe in our professional fields. So what do you think, like, as even mentioned the example of what is it, cassettes and then CDs, and then the evolution of technology after that. So is it the time, like being students or being professionals, we have to understand and we have to make ourselves more sophisticated in the use of AI? Like how can we use AI effectively to do our work?
Yeah, that's a good question because I know sometimes like you feel like, oh, am I giving AI too much of the work? Am I even putting as much effort? Am I losing out on my creativity? That is a good point. And then also like how much can it take away from that role and then how much am I contributing? I guess I'll kind of circle back to the same point I made where it's like even with these really good LLMs and all these like generative AI models, like they produce good code. They do produce like code that works, but it's usually one of two things. It's either based off of your code that you've already written, or it's replicating something over and over again. Now, I noticed some people that try to vibe code, right, where they're just putting in the prompt and they're just copy pasting like the code that the AI produces. They usually end up running into an aggregate problem because yes, the code worked in that first time, but then when they try to put it all together, with all things considered, it either crashes or it has some other issue that they can't trace back, or it's too expensive, right? The code is so expensive, like the AI is not able to individually do that. Partially because it doesn't have full context of the whole code that you're writing, the whole system that you're writing in, or what your final, I guess, purpose is with that project. It can help with maybe if you're just stuck on something small. I think it does a great job at that. But at the end of the day, we can't rely on AI for everything. And I think it's best that even though I know we're kind of in a situation as early people who are going to early entry level roles, like, oh, well, where am I at? What's my importance in these roles? Are they going to go away? I think what I'm seeing is get literate, like understand how to use these tools, right? So, for example, you're coding something and you're like doing it on your own, but then you're running into an issue where, you know what you want to implement, but you're not exactly sure which tool it is that you're supposed to use to implement that thing. That's where AI is useful, because then you don't know that, but then it can tell you what it is. Then you can implement that, but the ideas and the logic still comes from you. That's where I feel like, yes, you're still problem solving, you're still thinking, you're just using AI to assist that process. And I still do that even as a student sometimes, where if I'm stuck on a project for class, I'm like, all right, I understand how to approach it, but maybe I don't remember the library or the syntax that I was supposed to use. That's where AI does help me too. And in my classroom, a lot of teachers are pretty lenient on AI. They allow it as long as you cite it, type of thing. And I think that's going to happen in the workplace too. Um, because the other thing I'm also seeing is there's the senior coders, senior developers who don't really use AI, right? But then you see like the Gen Z, like our generation of people who are entering the workforce, they know how to use AI really well. And so they can actually get the same task done in a shorter time, but still do it well because they understand what they're doing, but they're using AI to speed it up a little bit. Versus that person who's had so much experience, but they're like not using AI, they'll get it done really well because they have the experience, but it sometimes doesn't get done as quickly. That's what, again, my former boss was telling me. He said he noticed that in his own startup. So he part of the reason he's still bringing on more younger people and entry level people is because of that, because they know how to use AI and it's actually helping his business more. So I think it is a little bit like an uncertain thing where it's like, how much better can it get? Again, we don't know all the stuff. We don't have all the answers, but I just think it's a matter of adaptation. And it's a matter of still using your own thinking, your own thought process, but allowing AI to assist that, to let you find the tools, to let you find the right libraries. What do you need to actually fulfill that goal that you're trying to go for? So yeah.
Yeah, that's correct, ma'am. You covered it well. So yeah, so one thing is they can abhi software engineering was on the top for last 20 years, right? 2000 में इसका boom शुरू हुआ, we are in 2026, right? Boom means what? Top students देखे ना, मतलब जब मैंने engineering की थी, once I did engineering back in late 90s, right? या early 2000, उस वक्त इलेक्ट्रिकल इंजीनियरिंग पाकिस्तान में टॉप पे थी. टॉप स्टूडेंट्स यूज्ड टू गो टू इलेक्ट्रिकल इंजीनियरिंग. क्यों? इट वाज ग्रोइंग, राइट? पैसे ज्यादा मिलते थे, जॉब ज्यादा थी, ग्रोइंग थी. एंड देन as I was doing engineering, just in within 4 years, software engineering overtook electrical engineering. क्यों? ग्रोथ ज्यादा थी, बड़ी बड़ी कंपनीज आ रही थी, गूगल, माइक्रोसॉफ्ट, जॉब ज्यादा क्रिएट हो रही थी, लोगों को पैसे अच्छे मिल रहे थे. लेकिन इन द एंड वी लिव इन अ कैपिटलिस्ट वर्ल्ड, राइट? दैट्स व्हाई कम्युनिज्म फेल्ड, राइट? ये पीपल आर ड्रिवन बाय द मनी. आपको पैसे ज्यादा मिलेंगे तो ज्यादा जॉब्स क्रिएट होंगी, लोग उस जॉब में चले जाएंगे. सॉफ्टवेयर इंजीनियरिंग वाज नेवर कंसिडर्ड अ डिफिकल्ट फील्ड. मतलब अगर आप कोडिंग करें relative to आप MSc मैथमेटिक्स करें, there is a difference in the level of difficulty. तो सॉफ्टवेयर इंजीनियरिंग वाज नॉट टफ इन दैट सेंस. ठीक है, कोडिंग आप 3 महीने लगाएं आपको कोडिंग आ जाएगी, राइट? MSc मैथमेटिक्स आप 3 महीने लगाएं आपको मैथ्स फिर भी समझ नहीं आएगा. तो that's the difference that software engineering created. It came in, it dominated the world, so many jobs, and top students went into like software engineering, and it kept growing, right? With AI, what would happen? We don't know, right? Of course, we cannot predict. But one thing people are generally thinking alike is that software engineering will lose its prime time. अब हर इंजीनियरिंग का एक प्राइम टाइम होता है, राइट? जब मैं इलेक्ट्रिकल कर रहा था, उससे 10 साल पहले सिविल इंजीनियरिंग टॉप पे थी. क्यों? क्योंकि कंस्ट्रक्शन बहुत ज्यादा हो रही थी, ब्रिजेस, बिल्डिंग्स, देयर वाज मोर इनोवेशन. किस तरह बिल्डिंग बनेगी, लेकिन किस तरह आप अच्छा ब्रिज बना सकते हैं. बट देन इट्स सैचुरेटेड, राइट? नाउ यू नो बट हाउ टू डू इट, राइट? अब इनोवेशन खत्म हो गई एंड सिविल इंजीनियरिंग वेंट डाउन, राइट? देन इलेक्ट्रिकल टॉप पे आई. देन इलेक्ट्रिकल एक टाइम पे जब सॉफ्टवेयर इंजीनियरिंग आई तो बूम आया, ये जिसको हम डॉट बबल कहते हैं, डॉट कॉम बबल कहते हैं. And then software engineering came and it led the world, and it went led the world for about 25 plus years, right? But now it looks like it's a time that the software engineering, pure software engineers will lose their, it will still create jobs, it will still be in demand, but it will not be the top field. अभी मैं देख रहा था, मतलब रिसेंटली यूसी बर्कले का मैं पढ़ रहा था, मतलब हमारे स्टूडेंट्स यूसी बर्कले के कोडिंग कम्पिटिशंस में जाते हैं. सो सॉफ्टवेयर इंजीनियरिंग में नंबर ऑफ एप्लीकेंट्स हैव गॉन डाउन दिस ईयर, राइट? बिकॉज यंग ग्रेजुएट्स जो अब कौन जाते हैं, हाई स्कूल स्टूडेंट्स होते हैं। तो यूएस में ना हाई स्कूल स्टूडेंट्स पाकिस्तान के एफएससी के स्टूडेंट्स होते हैं, क्योंकि यूएस में हाई स्कूल इज आफ्टर 12 years, पाकिस्तान में हाई स्कूल 10th grade का है। तो यहाँ पे तो कॉलेज स्टूडेंट्स, सो द नंबर ऑफ एप्लीकेंट्स आर गोइंग डाउन, सो देयर इज अ ट्रेंड व्हिच वी सी, राइट? इट मे नॉट सस्टेन, बट दैट्स व्हाट पीपल प्रिडिक्ट। प्योर सॉफ्टवेयर इंजीनियर्स का टाइम का प्राइम टाइम विल रिड्यूस, दे विल स्टिल हैव जॉब्स बट लेस जॉब्स। दे टॉप स्टूडेंट्स विल स्टॉप गोइंग इनटू द सॉफ्टवेयर इंजीनियरिंग। फिर वो कौन सी इंजीनियरिंग करेंगे, राइट? और विच टेक डोमेन दे विल गो टू, क्या वो इलेक्ट्रिकल करनी शुरू कर देंगे या सिविल या मेटलर्जिकल? नो, दैट वी डोंट नो, राइट? अब एआई की नई चीजें आ रही हैं, राइट? लाइक, बट अगेन एआई इज नॉट दैट टफ। एक अच्छा प्रॉम्प्ट लिखने के लिए यू डोंट नीड 4 years ऑफ इंजीनियरिंग, राइट? और जिसमें जो अभी मैम सारा कह रही थी, इट्स वेरी ट्रू के यंग इंजीनियर्स एआई को ज्यादा बेहतर यूज कर रहे हैं रिलेटिव टू सीजन्ड इंजीनियर्स। जिस तरह मैं उस कल स्टूडेंट से बात कर रहा था कि जो प्रोफेसर हैं, because they have not used these LLMs in their university time. Now they started using, लेकिन जो यूनिवर्सिटी टाइम होता है ना, दैट्स वेयर यू लर्न मोर। क्यों? क्योंकि आप उस एनवायरनमेंट में होते हैं, आपके साथ स्टूडेंट्स यूज कर रहे हैं, आप रिसोर्सेज पे जा रहे हैं। बट वंस यू आर अ प्रोफेसर इन योर late 50s or early 60s, you don't have time and energy to go, and resources means आप उन यंग लोगों से इतना इंटरेक्ट नहीं कर रहे, राइट? सो देन दे लूज that edge. That's where the young engineers have that edge, कि वो इस टाइम पे जो young students हैं, जो Gen Z की मैम बात कर रही थी, they are the ones who will who tend to use AI more. But again, AI is not that, मतलब AI develop करना is tough, but use करना people would learn. हम आपको आज आ गया है, बाकी को 1 साल बाद आ जाएगा, right? It's just how you write a good prompt and how you interact with an AI एजेंट, कि आप उससे मैक्सिमम बेनिफिट ले लें, बजाय इसके आप सारा दिन उसको प्रॉम्प्ट से लिखते रहें। आप यू कैन ट्राई टू summarize and get good prompts, reduce number of tokens. So that's how the world will go. But it will create new opportunities. So of course there would be new job opportunities, there would be new fields coming up. लेकिन कुछ fields will diminish, right? Like scripting. आपको scripting की क्या जरूरत है? Why you need an engineer to write scripts? Automation. Why you need engineers to run automation? Verification. Why you need engineers to do verification, right? These jobs AI will take over। क्या आपने, क्योंकि वेरिफिकेशन क्या है, मतलब अब हम अपने जॉब में बहुत ज्यादा वेरिफिकेशन करते हैं। आपने एक हार्डवेयर बनाया, आप सिर्फ ये टेस्ट कर रहे हैं कि जो आपने हार्डवेयर, जो आपने वेरीलॉग में या HDL में या किसी भी लैंग्वेज में डिजाइन लिखा है, इज इट व्हाट इट इज इंटेंडेड? एंड देयर आर इंजीनियर्स यूजिंग इट। चिप वापस आती है, यू आर ट्राइंग टू फिगर आउट, जब फैब से चिप्स फैब्रिकेट होती हैं, आर दे डूइंग द राइट थिंग? Still you need people, but the number of people would reduce, because now those repetitive tasks, पैटर्न मैचिंग टास्क, जहां पे आपने पैटर्न्स मैच करने हैं, आउटपुट वेरीफाई करनी है, ये विल टेक ओवर। जहां पहले 10 इंजीनियर रहते थे, आप 2 लिख के रखेंगे। बट इट विल क्रिएट न्यू अपॉर्चुनिटीज, राइट? नई चीजें, नए डोमेन्स खुलेंगे कि आप एआई को कैसे यूज कर सकते हैं। अभी मैं पढ़ा था, अब जिस तरह मेटा की एआई क्लासेस हैं, राइट? आप ग्लासेस में एआई को कैसे यूज करेंगे? ओके, वन इज स्मार्ट ग्लासेस, बट how you can integrate AI into a glass, into the shoes. आपके shoes में AI क्या करेगी? But if you put a chip in your shoe for AI, what benefits it can get? How you can make some of the problems that were not solved before with using AI? So there will be new opportunities.
Yeah.
चलो, thank you, ma'am.
So, Sir Mohammed Numan, sir, आप अपना क्वेश्चन करिए।
अस्सलाम वालेकुम, मेरा नाम मोहम्मद नुमान है। और मैम, क्या हमें परमिशन है उर्दू में सवाल पूछने की?
जी।
जी, मेरा सवाल ये है कि मैं वर्चुअल यूनिवर्सिटी ऑफ पाकिस्तान से BScs कर रहा हूँ, मेरा 4th सेमेस्टर है। तो मेरा सवाल ये है कि मैं वेब डेवलपमेंट मैंने उसके बारे में सीखना शुरू किया है, तो क्या ये वर्थ इट है फॉर अर्निंग पर्सपेक्टिव? इससे हम फ्रीलांसिंग, या मैं 3-4 महीने या 6 महीने लगा के किसी सॉफ्टवेयर हाउस में जॉब के लिए अप्लाई करना चाहूँ, तो क्या ये वर्थ इट है AI एरा में?
Yeah, I feel like I think I mentioned this earlier. with web development, I can see how that gets, it's already kind of getting automated. Like you can, even if you just go on those websites that create, you can create a website just from a website, right? But then you can also ask AI, hey, can you like, given this stuff, can you create a website for me? It can create a pretty good interface on its own. I've seen Claude do it a couple times. So, and I see this as someone who also did front end design in a previous internship, um, before I guess AI was really, really good at it. I think that it's definitely gonna diminish if we like when Rizwan was talking about the diminishing aspects, that's definitely something that's gonna diminish. And it's not to say that we won't have people that are still focused on UI, UX, and those types of things. It just means that that process will be heavily automated probably. And there might be a job title that's like, you know, designer, yes, but you're more focused on leading the AI into designing it. But you can think of the design, but then you're telling AI, can you produce it type of thing. So when it comes to specifically user front end stuff, I think that that probably is the first thing to go if you ask me. It's important that you have that. It's good that you have that experience, but I'd say if you're trying to make that your only job or like your main job, it may not last very long. At this point, it may be hard to even get now, since most people are probably automating that aspect. Um, and exactly like the point that was made earlier, where it's like, depending on the shifts with AI, wherever things go, certain engineering, certain disciplines will come up and down. Um, like we were talking about the rise in electrical and then the rise in software, right? There we had that huge software boom, right? But now that AI is here, it's making things easier to do with software. So it's like maybe software engineering isn't the hot topic, right? But maybe some other discipline will come up and then it will be like a whole new set of jobs. I can imagine that a whole new set of jobs is going to come out just from AI. Like, for example, the prompt engineering. Prompt engineering is a thing because of AI only and because it's becoming normal to use AI at work and school. Learning how to actually ask questions the right way in the best way possible is really going to be a skill now. Even though it sounds like kind of silly, it is a skill. So I'd say if you are still kind of interested in web development, you don't want to let that go. I'd say focus on using AI for it, like see how you can integrate AI with it and maybe get good at prompt engineering. So it's like you have value there. Like maybe you have ideas, but then you're using AI to help implement it. That way you have the AI experience and then you can kind of frame it in a way that's like, I have the knowledge, but I also am aware of the tools that I have and how I can use that to bolster my results. But I would still try to stay away from just specializing in web development, try to just go into general not just automation, but just like aspects of building AI. Like AI engineer was the role that I had. And our focus wasn't just writing code, it was also AI architecture. How can you design a pipeline for AI? Things like that, that you're not supposed to necessarily automate because you need to understand that stuff really well. So yeah, I'd say focusing on the bigger stuff. And then like we were saying things about chips and whatnot, hardware is going to be another important aspect to think about because hardware with a greater AI implementation comes more hardware use. Maybe electrical engineering will come back up again because of that too. So again, I'm not saying it's dead. I'm just saying that it's better to focus on more difficult skills that will last you longer and that have more value from an engineering standpoint. So yeah. That's just what I think too. It's
Okay,
not
ma'am.
like that will be the result, but that's just what I think.
ऑलराइट सो मैम सारा विल टेक लास्ट टू क्वेश्चंस और उसके बाद हम वेबिनार को वाइंड अप करेंगे सर इब्राहिम
अस्सलाम वालेकुम मैम। मैम मैंने ये पूछना था कि लाइक एक होते हैं सर्टिफिकेशंस, हमने पे करके सर्टिफिकेट लेते हैं, और एक पर्सनल प्रोजेक्ट होते हैं। तो इसका डिफरेंस और पर्सनल प्रोजेक्ट कितना काम आ जाता है? और दूसरा जो अभी आपने कहा डिफिकल्ट स्किल्स, तो या डिफिकल्ट फील्ड, तो वो जो अभी आपने सर नुमान को बताया है, तो मैम वो कौन कौन से होंगे जो हम कंसीडर करें?
Ooh, okay, this is a good question. I will say I'll give my input, but I will say probably getting this would be probably a question you could ask someone who's maybe more experienced in the field since they know more in depth. But what I think about it, well, your first question was about like certifications and projects. I mean, certifications, the reason I say certifications first is because it gives like, it just puts, if you put on your resume, it's like, okay, you've clearly done something that's official. You've done something that has value. That's official, right? So they can't deny that. And then the other thing is personal projects applies that skill. So it's all about showing them tangibly that you know how to use those things. You don't just say, oh yeah, I took a class in data structures and algorithms, right? It's one thing to take the class and do it, but then it's like, do you really know what you're doing? And that's probably the biggest gap that a lot of college students face is like, and this is kind of normal, right? Like when you're going into your first job, you're like, wait, I don't know what I'm doing type of thing, even though you've learned it. It's like you have to apply it. Sometimes the classroom doesn't always put it in a way that's easy to implement when you're at work. So you have to implement it either through your own work or kind of learn as you go type of thing. And then the fields that we were talking about, the areas that I feel like AI obviously won't really take over is one thing I think about is cybersecurity, actually. I'm not a cybersecurity specialist, but I think if you are going to go into tech fields, cybersecurity is one of those things where it's actually the demand will grow because of AI implementation. It's going to become more important to have cybersecurity specialists. And that's not something you necessarily can entirely automate because you're going to need people to constantly be overseeing that. I think cybersecurity will be a big thing in relevance to AI. I think developing AI from scratch, like people who actually work on AI architecture, right? That's still going to be very much in demand because AI is just going to keep growing, but you still need people to really understand the inner workings. That's my opinion. And that's something that I've also been trying to focus on a little more with the work. That's one of the projects I did. So I try to take that with seriousness since it considers the whole aspect of engineering and logic that I talked about before. So I think those are kind of like, if you're going to talk about what seems to be really the difficult but more important aspects of tech right now as we see things going, it's that. Because AI will eventually make its place, and it's already making its place into entry-level roles, into even assisting technologists already. But there's a level of industry understanding and knowledge that you only build through that experience, and that can only help you, but it can't do it for you. So, yeah,
Thank you, ma'am.
of course.
Right. Sir Ahmed Fizan.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam.
I don't actually have a question. I basically want to address something Sir Rizwan brought up because I believe it's something that even people with decades of experience in software engineering don't really know about. Honestly, I was listening to what Miss Sarah Khan said and what Sir Rizwan said, and I believe your answer and his answer were not correct, and they were lacking. I believe they were lacking in knowledge. Please don't mind what I'm saying, but first of all, the problem that Sir Rizwan brought up was basically that will all the software engineers be replaced by AI? This is a very worrying question. I know all the software engineers are worried about it. I'm pretty sure you are also worried about it, and even people with decades of experience are worried about it. First of all, this problem should be divided into multiple points. There are multiple school of thoughts that try to answer this question, and I basically overlapped them. I basically found a overlap in those theories and in those analysis. I don't think this is a technical question, and it can have a technical answer. I don't think a software engineer with decades of experience can answer it. I believe it's more like a, philosophical or theoretical question. So I will try to address this question. First of all, what is AI? AI is computation. We know that. I do not need to go deep into. Secondly, what are software engineers? They are basically tasks. Software engineering is a task that we in our reality, in our the world we created, we do those tasks. So first of all, if AI is computational and software engineering is also computational, we are introduced three problems here. First is the Turing 1936 problem, I believe. It was the halting problem, and the second is rise theorem. First of all, I explained the halting problem. It was basically it is what he proposed was that it is mathematically, logically, and reasonably impossible for a program that is computational, for a program to 100% predict what another program would do. It is completely impossible. It is illogical and it is mathematical fallacy. It is a logical fallacy. It cannot be proven by math. It is not provable. So AI is a program. We know that. AI is a program, and this program, the what Turing proposed that because a program in itself is confined by the rules of computation, it cannot be able to 100% predict what all the programs, 100% of the programs will be able to do in the future. And this is more like behavioral stuff of the program. So his proposition was that there are like 1% or 2% or 3% of the types of tasks that humans do that another program will never be able to solve because it creates a mirror situation, you see. And because of the confinements of the rules of the computation, that is why he proposed that. So secondly, the issue here is that programs in itself are confined by the rules of computation, and rules of computation cannot be conscious. You need to understand that very clearly. It's something people really don't talk about, and I have not seen people in academia look into this stuff, and there aren't really a lot of scholars looking into this. The problem of computation is that it cannot be conscious.
Yeah.
The problem, you know that it cannot be conscious.
Yeah.
And why cannot be conscious? Because consciousness transcends the rules. What is transcending the rules? We go beyond our rules, confined rules that we're confined by to explain something. Consciousness is confined by itself, so it is mathematical impossibility. It is a philosophical impossibility for it to transcend its rules. First of all, I have explained you what why AI cannot be conscious. So second is that if AI cannot be conscious, are there tasks in this reality that require consciousness? I don't actually know that. I think there are, but I do not 100% know those tasks. Uh, I think people really need to look into what those tasks are, because my mind cannot find all that. I don't think I can. Only I can look into what those tasks will be. The problem that consciousness arises that, and the halting problem also, that there are a minute quantity of programs that will never be answered by another program, because it the program needs to be aware of itself and the program for it to answer it. And this may be a bit difficult for many to understand, but if you do want to go deep into it, I would recommend looking into it and giving some time into it, because even with software engineer with decades of experience really just talk about it in isolation and don't really know what they're saying. So the third problem is the Rice theorem, and it's basically the Turing problem on steroids. What it says is that any non all the non-trivial questions about a program will never 100% be explained by AI or another program, because non-trivial programs are basically behavioral. Where will the program lead? Will it keep on looping? Will it have bugs in the future? A program will never be able to 100% answer this question. Yeah, it can answer 90% of the times, 95% of the time, even 99% of the time, but there will always be that small quantity of programs that AI will never be able to answer. It's mathematically impossible. It's just cannot answer. So to answer this question, I would say that you need to find those tasks. What are those tasks that require consciousness? What are those tasks that transcend the rules of computation? And what are those tasks that AI just cannot fully predict? And I don't really know what those tasks are. I will look into it, but I don't 100% predict, because consciousness is very difficult to observe, and where it's used in the reality and all of that stuff. I don't I don't think it is empirically. We can put it empirically, like what consciousness can do. So I think if I can give you a small like advice as to those who want to be in software engineering, want to survive, I think you need to have the absolute mathematical rigor, and you need to be the best software engineer to survive, because I said all this to I'm not saying all of you guys now chill out and be fine, because AI cannot solve all the answers. And AI will 100% replace 95 of the software.
तो सर अहमद, अगर कोई सवाल है आपका तो आप पूछ लें। मुझे समझ नहीं आया इस पूरे डिस्कशन में सवाल क्या है, ये कॉन्सेप्ट है या डिस्कशन है या कोई सवाल है। सो बेसिकली अगर कोई शॉर्ट क्वेश्चन है सो यू मे आस्क, वरना हम वेबिनार पे यहाँ पे वाइंड अप करते हैं। 2.5 आवर्स गुजर चुके हैं और मैम सारा ने हमें बहुत ज़्यादा टाइम दिया है वेबिनार के लिए, तो अगर कोई शॉर्ट क्वेश्चन है तो आप पूछ सकते हैं, वरना हम वेबिनार पे यहाँ पे कंक्लूड करते हैं।
Ma'am, I wanted to answer Sir Rizwan's concern, but okay then. Fine.
Okay, thank you very much, Ahmed. Great discussion from another perspective. So obviously, I Code Guru पे यहाँ पे I would like to take this opportunity to add a couple of points. First of all of us are discussing over here. We are giving our own point of view or perspective, and we are not expert. All of us are learning right now. Second, 90 जो टेक्निकली सबसे ऑप्टिमिस्टिक डिकेड रहा है ना, दैट वाज 1960s कि उसमें काफी सारी इनोवेशंस हुई थी. ह्यूमन वाज एबल टू गो टू द मून एंड ऑल दोस थिंग्स हैपेंड. और उस वक्त प्रेडिक्शंस हुई थी कि हाउ लाइफ वुड बी इन नेक्स्ट 50 इयर्स बिकॉज ऑफ साइंटिफिक इनोवेशन. तो माशाल्लाह वो सारी की सारी जो प्रेडिक्शंस थी वो गलत साबित हो गई हैं. नन ऑफ दोस थिंग्स हैपेंड. फॉर एग्जांपल उस वक्त एक प्रेडिक्शन ये थी कि एक ऐसा ड्रेस आ जाएगा जो खुद जिसमें हीटर या जो टेम्परेचर कंट्रोल होगा, वो कभी नहीं आया. तो बेसिकली ऑब्वियसली प्रेडिक्शन करना मुश्किल है और क्या कहते हैं, वी कैन ऑलवेज आर्ग्यू ऑन इट एंड बेसिक. लेकिन जो आई कोड गुरु का पर्पस है दैट इज नॉट टू गो इनटू दीस टेक्निकली डिफिकल्ट सिचुएशंस और डिस्कशंस बिकॉज वी आर नॉट एक्सपर्ट्स. आई कोड गुरु का बड़ा क्लियर पर्पस है. वी वांट टू मेक आवर यूथ एम्प्लॉयबल, कि they are good enough to get a job in the top companies of the world. They are good enough to get fully funded scholarships around the globe. And so basically, we are just filling the gap between the industry and the academia. So thanks, Ji. Thanks, ma'am, Sarah. I am just for last 1 hour, I was super impressed with you. कि आप माशाल्लाह क्या कहते हैं, you are still here and you are answering the questions. It is extraordinary.
Shukriya, thank you so much.
Thank you.
या और मैं भी ऐड करूंगा मैम, वेरी मैच्योर आंसर्स आपने बड़ा अच्छा हैंडल किया, एंड योर पर्सपेक्टिव ओनली बीइंग इन second or third year of undergrad is really impressive. So it speaks of your upbringing, it speaks of how you have grasped things in your life, how professionally competent you are. So it's really impressive, and thanks for your time. It was great listening to you and getting your perspective from. We don't know many people from Ivy League, so it's good to know someone from Ivy League. Great, man. Thank you.
Yep, and congratulations to all the students who are teaching at Stanford right now. So this year we have got around 170 students who got opportunity to be TA at Stanford. तो क्या कहते हैं, this is second year in a row that we have come up in very big numbers. और हार्वर्ड में भी हमारे स्टूडेंट इस दफा सबसे ज्यादा थे कंपटीशन में, more than 2200 versus 1800 from USA and 1400 from India. So hats off to our moderators. So over to the host. अगर किसी का क्वेश्चन नहीं है तो.
Thank you, sir. So thank you, Ma'am Sarah, for your time, and Dr. Zafar, Dr. Rizwan for joining us. So take care. Allah Hafiz, everyone.
Allah Hafiz.